Hey Tanner, how are you doing? Thanks for the questions again, by the way. We got those sent across yesterday. In total, we put seven questions actually in total. So that was pretty good for a small group. It's hard to fathom a question and put it all down, especially when it comes to someone with legal knowledge, etc. So the questions actually turned out great. Stephen put some really good stuff down, as did you, Tanner. So awesome. Actually turned out great. Stephen.
No worries. All good. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I think it'll turn out well. It's something we need to address, we need to tackle the subject as in as best a way as we can. There's a lot of listeners, not a lot of talking. So what I'm going to do is I'll leave the chat, the voice chat open. I'll sign off and just carry on with doing all the preps I was doing for next week's VC. So I kind of need to be productive with that. So I'll just leave this open and feel free to talk.
I had a question which I don't know whether it's actually relevant to the whole discussion, but is it theoretically possible for somebody to bridge something from Ethereum to a layer 2 on PulseChain and completely bypass the layer 1 chain, like doing it undetected, essentially? Is that theoretically possible? Like, is there a bridge which goes directly from Ethereum to PulseChain layer 2, for example? Have people done that, like without a single transaction being detected on PulseChain layer 1?
Good question, Tanner, and I have no idea. I think I'll make
Maybe it's a 9i thing, perhaps.
Yeah, that's because no one can see this L2. Well, you need the RPC to see it and understand it. So I don't know of anyone that has that access, unless 99 has that access. It's kind of mysterious,
Funnily enough, I have a hunch that if he did make any statements about that, he would be giving himself away as the massive insider if he does that. So maybe he might not want to answer that question.
Yeah, I shouldn't speak for him, but his line, retort is getting narrower and narrower as we progress further, because he seems to know more and can say less. So that it's quite narrow. The opportunity to ask questions is getting narrower and narrower. It's tricky,
The believer cycle, as some would say.
Yeah, it feels like it, right? And I'd say 9 could ask, and certainly Bavarian. I think Bavarian might have something to say about that, but I'm not. Maybe his retort is narrowing too, because he seems to be very, very bright and very good at chain analysis.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that layer 2, private layer 2, is necessarily how it's going to happen. It was just more sort of like, if I was a billionaire and I wanted to ship large amounts of collateral into a chain without you know, everyone front running the hell out of me and wicking the price up, then like one way would be to use a private layer 2 and just basically stealth load the collateral onto and store it somewhere where no one can touch it, basically. Anyway, I don't know. I'm like worse than everyone at like knowing how blockchain works, but it was just sort of like a bit of a thought experiment. Yeah, I'm whatever. I don't care how it pegs as long as it happens, and whatever. I'm happy to wait as long as it takes. That's what I'm saying. It just helps me build conviction. That's all.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm the same as I'm not going anywhere. This has been an amazing journey, and every day that goes by, like, I know we're all in chat. We're a small group. We really are a small group, and we're all in chat, and we're all analyzing so carefully every detail. We throw a little humor in there to keep it to keep things sane, you know. But there's some great debate going on, and really every day that passes, in my view, is just another opportunity to shake some people out. That's how I've continually looked at it, just from the distribution side alone. And then going back on many things the founder of this whole chain uttered and tried to educate people about, you know, things just seem to tally up. And if risk is like that turns impact, then I'm very, very happy to be here. Yeah.
Oh no, glad. Pleasure's mine. Speaking of distribution, have you noticed any sort of material changes in distribution lately in the last couple of weeks? I remember you provided an update a couple of weeks ago about it. I just wondered, is there anything, any peculiar strange activities that you've picked up on lately?
Well, over the last, it'll be now, I guess we're coming up 10 weeks. So around 10 weeks ago, we had like a couple of events, like selling events, that spooked the traders. That's what I figured. It was spooking traders. And we lost on each event, we lost and gained something like 120 addresses in that 1 to 5 million cohort. And then the following day, people bought those positions. Not as many addresses, maybe 80 or 90 addresses came in. So all the churn was in that 1 to 5 million cohort. Then all of a sudden, we had a selling event or a spook event, you know, I don't know, maybe 3-4 weeks ago. And it's usually around like geopolitical stuff. You just look at the markets, and then you just see where it's reflected. And all of a sudden, the 1 to 5 million cohort was accumulating, which I thought, wow, okay, that's different. It was a similar type of event, but it was having the opposite effect. So either we just shook traders out who just couldn't get back in. I do not know. And ever since there's just been addresses in the 5 to 10 million cohort moving up into 10 to 15 or 15 to 20. There's been this accumulation north in the cohorts, and I see that as positive. And the accumulation in the space of 24 hours sometimes is just enormous in the top 50 addresses. And keeping in mind those top 50 could be owned by 3 people. Who knows? But
yeah, wow.
Yeah, I think I put a stat up about that. Let me double check that, but I posted about that like 2 weeks ago. It was the accumulation in the top 50 addresses over a 24-hour period, and it was substantial. So that shows conviction to me, you know.
Yeah, I mean, with this sort of accumulation thing, it's mainly about it's not necessarily how much is accumulated. It's more, for me at least, it's more, number one, is there a relationship between the wallets that are accumulating, especially the larger ones? Is there a can a pattern or a relationship between these wallets be, you know, potentially inferred? And then the second important thing is basically, why are these, what is causing, or not what's causing these wallets to sell or buy. It's more like, has there been a glitch in the code which is causing the selling, as opposed to just, people are spooked about oil prices. Because if they're just spooked about oil prices, then it's not really that dangerous, because it isn't perceived as dangerous, because it's just, pDAI in its meme coin phase. Essentially, it's currently operating like a meme coin, whereas you have dumps occurring because there's an infinite minting bug. That's a completely different type of event, versus just, I'm just scared that my petrol is going to be $12 a gallon or something. So I guess if it's just market forces, then nothing to worry about. Just write it out, I guess.
It feels like it's market forces, but I'll say this. I kind of backed off doing the distribution work, because I felt that if the OA really does, well, let's say the pioneers in quotes, if they control 80%, even 80% of the DAI, then those distribution tables are kind of not really a reflection of, say like when there's a selling event, or some sort of mass event that pays visit. Well, if the pioneers own 80% of that, we're not really getting a true picture of things, and it can kind of lead people into thinking something slightly different. And I didn't want to do that. I considered it. I thought, well, this data isn't exactly, even though it's mathematically correct on the screen, it infers something that isn't quite truthful if there's a huge amount owned by pioneers.
Yeah, if there's some sort of relationship between the wallets, as opposed to just purely, fragmentation per se.
I was chatting to 99 about it a few weeks ago. So I said that I would share that data with him weekly. So I do that because it takes a bit of time to do it. You have to do all this. You have to scrape the PulseChain scan. You have to stick it in a Google Sheet. You have to add everything up. It just takes a bit of time. So if we're all doing a little piece of the puzzle and sharing it around, it's good. It's like time saving, energy saving. But he and I are of the opinion that it's a shuffle in the deck exercise, and that would be the relationship you're talking about. So you have one address with a certain amount in, and you need to sort of, maybe it's like obfuscation, making things difficult to track back. Even though it's all on a public blockchain, but he and I are of the opinion that this shuffling the deck has continued and continued, but that it's starting to become less. It's like the holdership has been refined so much to a point where people are just holding. They seem to be holding more or accumulating rather than just selling off into lesser amounts, lesser cohorts, or just getting out altogether. That churn is just not as strong as it was, and it's now things seem quite. It's more balanced week to week. You can almost predict. You can almost predict where it's going to be in 2 days' time. So he said to me, when the shuffling of the deck begins to dwindle or stop, well, that would seem like go time. And
that would make logical sense. For that occur, because you've basically concluded the accumulation phase of pDAI. I mean, I've sort of heard of, how Somi says, there might be a slow peg or a fast peg, and you want attention to eyeballs on PulseChain, because more people get rich and more people participate, etc., etc. Like, I kind of agree with it, but the other sort of perspective I have is, if your goal as the pioneer is to accumulate as much pDAI supply as possible, like at any cost or whatever it is. Like if your goal is to accumulate like as much of the circulating supply as possible, you would want to suppress the price of pDAI as long as you can, because even if like you would want to accumulate 90% of what you want at 20 hundredth of a cent, then let it go up to 3 cents and then push it back down to 1 cent, and then buy back down at 1 cent. I mean, unless you're a trader, I guess. Like if you're a trader, you want to create a top, get everyone to buy in at the top, and then sort of sell at the top, and then accumulate lower. I guess you could do that. But if I was actually looking to accumulate as much as I can so that I need the least amount of collateral to back it up when it finally goes to $1, then I mean, I'm not Richard Hart, so obviously, you know, I don't have his genius thing, but I would be trying to accumulate as much pDAI as I can at as low price as I can. And once I'm satisfied that that I have enough you know, supply, I would then instapeg it, and then the 5,000 people who get rich would just be like, they would be shilling so hard that like, and creating so many green candles in the other coins in PulseChain that itself would cause the ripple effect of powering the whole ecosystem up. But yeah, I don't know which theory sounds more feasible, like which one's more, you know, better, anything like that. But I just thought I'd mention it just in case someone had thoughts about it, or whether I'm missing something, like I'm missing something key in what assumptions I'm making or something. That's what I've been thinking about it, at least. Yeah.
I think it's spot on, Tanner. I'm exactly the same train of thought as you. I have been. I think you and I have been of this train of thought for a very, very long time.
Yeah. I mean, there's pros and cons of both approaches. It's just like, yeah, like it really depends on, I suppose, what the pioneers actually really want to do. I'm assuming that they want as much of the supply as possible. Maybe they don't, who knows? But anyway, whatever. We're just gonna wait. We're just gonna wait and then see what they do, I suppose. Like if they want to raise it to 5 cents and dump it down to 1, fine. You kind of know what they're gonna do. But yeah, no, appreciate you sort of confirming that my thought process wasn't totally insane, basically.
Well, I mean, look, all of us here, you and I and everyone here, we want DAI as cheap as possible in order to succeed. Yeah. Why on earth would any founder not want for the same?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a centralized point of control, but it's also about trust. And you know, I know this motto, like trust is dead. You know, we've heard that motto a bit. Trust is dead. Long live PROVEX. I was saying last week, like trust is a fundamental part of the human experience. We're not trusting a person, but at the same time, your trust is directed to PROVEX. You trust to use PROVEX. So you can't just delete trust. Trust is it's like breathing. You know, you have to.
I totally agree. I completely agree. The thing is that no matter whatever financial system you use, whether it's fiat or crypto, you have to trust something. But I suppose that what we can say is that the governments are definitely not worth trusting. So at the very least, you can create a system which is centralized to a source that is more trustworthy than the government. I think that's sort of the real. That's what really is. It's not removing trust altogether. It's removing the reliance on trusting an entity that cannot be trusted, i.e. the deep state. I think that's what actually it is, because there's scammers everywhere in crypto as well. It's just, you know, I would trust. I mean, no man or woman is perfect, but I would put more trust in Richard Hart than, you know, the US government, you know, relatively speaking. So, and I'm sure that most people here would do as well. So I think it's just a transference of trust from a definitely unreliable, untrustworthy system to someone who is relatively more trustworthy than that, which is not a very high bar when we're talking about governments here.
What's your opinion on how the chat is working? Do you like the direction we're going in?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had an agenda. I don't have much to say. I've got my few opinions, but I'm not really in tune with how the technicalities and stuff, unlike basically everyone else here.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, yeah, I'm happy to stop talking and not monopolize the conversation. I don't have much to say anyway, but there are a few opinions.
I mean, sorry, Tanner. I mean the Telegram itself. Like, do you feel like there's anything else we could do to improve the channel, or do you think we're just doing fine? Like, I think we've done some good
I think
stuff
we're all right.
together.
As someone mentioned last week, I do think that there is a point where we need to gatekeep the chat to people who are trustworthy. Because I know I saw somebody saying that there were still scammers operating in pDAI Telegram, in the official pDAI Telegram. In which case, though, I think the way that you would deal with it is by basically gating it, and which we already have in a sense. I've already gated it in terms of admin, like having to be invite only. And then what would happen is that the scammers will eventually wash themselves out, like getting banned, and they would attrition down over time. So I like that this chat is now invite only. And then obviously when clarity passes, or when we have a reasonably good idea of the peg actually happening, then it'll probably be a time where we would probably, I would start a new chat. I personally would start a new chat and then just invite the OGs onto it. And then, not necessarily sign NDAs or anything, but just sort of, it's going to be like Bitcoin 2010 when people were running seminars underground and you had passwords to get in and stuff. That's the kind of vibe I'm feeling from seeing this. Yeah. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with it so far, and the changes that have happened. Yeah.
I should say thanks to CryptoBurn as well. Yesterday, he got in touch. He had all this information about one individual in chat who's kind of embedded themselves and was visiting scams on people. Like, and it was all to do with ZKX. And CryptoBurn sent me a screenshot of the site they're using to do it, and it was flawless, man. I can see why anyone would fall for it, without just doing the usual due diligence. But you can see how good these scammers have gotten. So thanks to CryptoBurn on that one, because we removed that person straight away. And that's a really cool thing about this community. That, there's good communication, and it's kind of self-policing in a way, which is really awesome. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants each other to win.
Yeah. I swear, if these scams actually focus their energy on actually making a positive impact, they probably make more money, ironically. Like, if they actually bothered to use their skills and their intelligence in more productive things, that'd be a lot better for them. But I suspect that maybe, they're part of those, those Cambodian slave camps where they kidnap people and put them in front of computers to try to scam or something, that kind of scenario, whatever.
I do have some. I got a message this morning from a gentleman at rampnow.io, and I thought I was cautious at first, and I put it to the other guys in the admin chat about it. I'll just read it out. His name is Methan, and I thought, well, I wonder who that is. And it said the phone number is registered to India. So I was curious as to where ramp now is based. It's actually registered out of Poland, but it seems it's pretty normal to have people doing the like outsourcing that sort of outreach work to other countries. So India would be logical. Like we all get calls from call centers in India and things like this, and sometimes it's totally legit. But the way he worded the DM was like legitimate, and I didn't it didn't seem quite like a scam at all. So he added a link to rampnow.io. I didn't tap on it. Instead, I searched out rampnow.io and I found it. And he is indeed a member of this team at rampnow.io. Unless, of course, he's taken on the name, I thought, and is, enacting a real elaborate scam. But he then gave me his email address. I said, if we want to talk about this at all, we'd obviously put it to the admins and then maybe branch out into the community, let them know this service exists or something like that. We haven't even gone there yet, but he gave his handle, and it's the actual proper Ramp Now email, Methon at rampnow.io. So it seems legitimate. So I'm going to send the guy an email from, I have this pDAI email address to kind of, protect my own identity, but it's the one we use to sign up for the X account. So I'll reach out and see what it's about. But I'll just read the message and just get your take on it as well. So it says, "Hey Osprey, this is Methon from RampNow. We've recently integrated DAI into RampNow, currently under testing. So users can buy DAI using Google Pay, Apple Pay, SEPA, bank transfers, and other local payment methods. We've been trying to get in touch with the right person from DAI, but haven't had much luck so far." Now, I didn't verify that part. I haven't asked has anyone else heard from him, but we've yet to see. We'd love to explore having Ramp Now available as an on-ramp option for the DAI community. Would you happen to know who I should speak with? Appreciate any help. But all his links and email handle are legitimate. So we'll just...
I would probably ask where he actually got how he actually sort of found out about it and sort of who he's been speaking to, other than yourself. And then sort of independently verifying with that person what happened and so forth. I mean, that's what I would do. It's just like making sure he's not just making up names or something. I mean, that's the very first step I do. I don't know what will happen from, I guess what happens after that. What we do after that would depend on what they say and who you end up speaking to ultimately. If he declines to give it, then I'd probably be like, well, how do we know you're not, the next, scammer off the street? Because they'd be like happy to do that. It's like, oh, okay, it was Taylor Sands who introduced you to Rap Now. No, I'm not, no, but I'm just saying by way of example. That's what I do. I try to figure out how they even found out about us. And then
I'll ask that in the email, and I said I quote the I'm actually going to quote the Telegram the DM he sent me. So if it arrives in the address of another Methon at Ramp Now, we'll know it was not legitimate. But, I'll be super cautious about it. It just seemed it didn't seem like all the other scam things you get, So I thought, okay, let's have a look.
Yeah.
I'll keep you
informed. Thing is, like,
anyway.
I mean, I don't know. It also depends on what fees they charge as well. Like, if they're charging like 4% fees, then even if it's legit, I don't know whether I have the appetite to do that. I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's very early. Like, I think we're a bit early to do fiat on ramps for pDAI. To be honest, it's like price of crab. Sentiment is like non-existent. Whatever. I don't even think it's a particularly big rush anyway to do that.
True.
Yeah. But I've used Ramp Now before to go from like when I sold my Solana shitcoins, I just rotate them into PulseChain. I did back in 2023. I did use Ramp Now, and it seemed to work, although the fees were pretty expensive. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see how you go. Let us know how you go with that. Yeah.
Well, I'll come back to you on it. I'll send the email. I'll probably do it during this VC when other people are chatting away. And I'm sort of doing a few things today, mostly around the VC of the 23rd, and we're just going to try and make the best. We want to make the best of it, you know, because it's not often. We tried so hard. We tried so hard to get someone with the experience or expertise, but it's a different story when you ask people. It's like they've got to feel that sort of that confidence to speak, which is not easy, and then it's about getting over this whole idea of sides and factions or groups, communities, and coins. One thing we all have in common is the Clarity Act, I think, and it's good to talk about it. Like, we're all grown-ups. I was never really into the taking sides thing anyway. I think there's some really bright people on other chains who could lend their expertise. In an ideal world, I would really enjoy that. Imagine just someone with legal expertise on another chain and another coin comes across, and people on both sides think, "Oh, that's great! What a good example of helping each other out in this crypto space." That would be ideal, but yes, it's a pipe dream, I think, sometimes. But we got someone at the end of the day, so it's great.
Are they a pDAI holder?
They are, yeah. So there's a massive element of bias.
Oh yeah, I mean, you'd be, I mean, there's pros and cons of that, as we would be well aware of. I only asked that because, at least for if it was a pDAI holder, the advantage is they actually know what pDAI is. You don't have to, like, they have a working knowledge of what it's meant to do and what it is, and some of the background context behind it. But yeah, I think it'd be good to get an actual lawyer or someone who knows what they're talking about to discuss the pros and cons, warning signs, etc., what to watch out for, and so forth.
He's definitely not. He's not approaching it with a. He's very, very reasonable thinker and grounded in the opinions of his colleagues and the environment he works in. He doesn't seem to be approaching this from I read Telegram and I formulated these opinions based on that can be like muddled a bit by sentiment and expectancy. He really is coming at it from a real as professional a standpoint as he can, and I think that's great. Even though it might be hard to hear as well, some of it might not sit well with some people, but he's coming at it from a grounded perspective, and I think that can be a great benefit to us. Like, good information is of value no matter what it is. It's true. We're not. I guess it's all speculative, right? Even a professional opinion is speculative, arguably, but it's grounded in some experience that we don't have, and I think that's where I'm coming from on this whole subject.
Oh, speaking of Clarity Act, what's this deal about a delay happening? Like, what are they still trying to sort out here? Like, I saw a bunch of posts saying, "Oh, it's not going to happen in July," for whatever reason. I didn't really fully grasp what the actual problem was. Do you have any? Yeah.
I believe we have something posted in chat about it, but it was around. They're looking for six senators to change their way of thinking before a certain time, and I think that has to happen by a certain date. But it might, like, I might be contrary to Dr. Pegger on this one, but he's done the research too, so I can't dispute that. But I just always feel like I think the July thing has gotten construed with the Liberty Swap posts a bit as well. It's all become one sort of train of thought. Again, I don't really pay attention. Yeah, July. We're here, but I think it feels more likely August to me, or September before something happens. I never really. I don't. I just don't think July is it. But goodness me, I'm happy to be proven wrong. But at the same time, I don't have the. I Dr. Pegger is really on the button about all of it. He's put some great stuff together, you know.
Yeah.
But there seems to be some, like, they haven't stopped working on it ever since. Like, there's talks and talks going on all the time. I think we need to see I think it's six senators fall into position. I'm just not sure on the progress of that.
Okay. I mean, I don't really, to be honest, like, I think it doesn't. Oh, well, it seems that maybe whether the banks succeed in saying that stablecoin issuers can't pay yield on the stablecoin. I don't really think that's too much of an issue. I would expect the pioneers to have prepared for that eventuality, given how often it's been mentioned in everywhere, really. It's more just sort of actually, here's the question. Here's the actual question I have. Aside from the issue of yield and stablecoins, what other provisions? Maybe this is, I don't know whether maybe this is a question which is for next week, or I don't know whether it's been already raised by some other community member. But aside from the issue of yield and stablecoins, what other provisions of the Clarity Act do we actually care about? In terms of what would be directly or closely related to pDAI itself. Like the one that gets mentioned the most is the yield thing, but other than that, I can't think of anything else. I mean, there's this thing about DeFi safe harbors and then having monitoring, like surveillance of transactions for counter CTF and AML. But like, how would you even do that if the protocol's not even like officially owned by anyone, or nor docs? Like, how would you even enforce that on pDAI? But yeah, maybe one of the questions which you might add to next week is what other provisions of the Clarity Act actually matter other than yield in this sort of context? Yeah.
We've got I think Clarity Act, there's going to be a legal distinction between truly decentralized protocols and these sort of companies pretending to be decentralized. That's inside the Clarity Act. But at the same time, PulseChain isn't a company, so I don't think
it's just a bunch of code lines.
Yeah,
it's literally just a bunch of lines of code on the internet.
Yeah,
it's a PulseChain. The community is not PulseChain. Like, community is not the blockchain. It's a community.
Yeah,
that isn't the one. That's not the one. Actually, the community isn't the one actually issuing the stablecoin. It's the minting of it on chain of an unknown entity, which, whatever. It's just, yeah. Anyway, I think I'm preaching to the converted. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's you raise a good point, but I feel like a lot of the work was done. Even though the SEC versus PulseChain, right? It wasn't dismissed on merit. It was dismissed on jurisdiction. Now, the appeal window came and went, which is very positive. But we don't have a distinction about this whole argument that blockchain is speech. I don't feel we've arrived at that, even though that's what was being argued. That was the base. I think that was part of the basis of the argument on the side of the defense. So really, yeah, absolutely. Actually, you're absolutely right. PulseChain isn't a company. The people aren't a company. The holders aren't a company. The PulseChain is speech, according to the defense. But we never got to hear that argument dismissed on merit. I wish we had, because I really think the founder, wanted to show the world that. and it was evident in a lot of the writing on X at the time, and like all the people that showed up to support it, this was the narrative, and it seems based in truth to me as well. So really, what we
You
have
need
is
another. You need another case. You need another case to actually
yeah,
litigate that point.
yeah,
I
to sort of
prayed. I prayed. Yeah,
crystallize it.
yeah, to crystallize that being. Yeah, I did. Yeah, it wasn't even obiter. It was just. Yeah, it was purely on jurisdictional grounds, unfortunately. Um, which I guess is good in the sense that she did kind of imply that blockchain was not a centralized entity, like the
Yeah,
same as what companies are, which is kind of nice. I mean, like it's your consolation prize, I guess. Um,
yeah.
yeah, somebody needs to argue. Maybe a tornado cash guy or someone needs to argue that. Yeah, like um, that the argument that blockchain is actually just a form of speech. Um, Yeah. So no, yeah. Hopefully one day, and hopefully it does. Hopefully that court case doesn't cause our coins to go down -99%.
Yeah. I mean, everything feels peaceful on that front. There's been no the only thing remaining is this Interpol business. I feel like the bureaucratic side of things there isn't going anywhere anytime soon because bureaucrats are super, super slow.
Yeah. Well, I guess the positive part is that because PulseX was ruled to be out of jurisdiction, essentially ruled just to be code, that kind of implies that all smart contracts which are that are designed in the same way as say PulseX or Hex would
Mm.
be uh, out of jurisdiction as well. So at least that's a positive to take away. Um, I guess I would have had a question of if I wonder if there's any way that they could legislatively get around the ruling. Maybe I don't know. I think that's probably one of my questions which I had. I asked something like, does regulation or any can they legislate their way and change the rules and try to rug us that way? Um, but
It
yeah,
could be.
I mean, if that happened, then they'll probably take forever anyway because you know how fast these guys are. You know.
Oh, you could be waiting 3 years.
Yeah.
I think
Hopefully, we're all cashed out and in Dubai in 3 years.
yeah. It could be a question. It could be a good question to ask on next week's VC. I keep that one in mind because that what we were going to do because it's going to be recorded and it's on at a bit of a weird time as well, Tennis Sans, because and I know you're far away. Well, we're far away from you, but the we're going to have it on at 11 p.m. UTC. Actually, that might fit your time zone, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but it's on at a bit of an awkward time because it suits the guest, because they have a day job, and we said we'd work around them. But in any case, it's going to be recorded, and we felt like we could of the 6 questions we have, 6 or 7 questions, we feel like we can get them covered inside of perhaps 45 minutes, perhaps. Uh, we took the questions, we sent them off to him yesterday. He's looking at them on his own for several days, and anything he needs to run by lawyer colleagues, he's going to do so. So it's a fantastic opportunity. So he's got 7 days, which I think he's like agreeable to it. I think he feels like he has enough time to cover it, to cover all the questions, and he's going to send back which ones he's happy to answer, which can be. I guess it's a time constraint too. It's a lot of work on his part because he aims to
Mm.
come back with good data. Uh, so that section of the VC, we're just going to read out the questions. Say so. This question was from XYZ. This question was from Tennesans. He asks XYZ, and he'll read the answer. He's got it all there, but I'm sure he'll talk off the cuff too, and it's going to be as natural as possible. But when that when that window of the VC is complete, we'll just open the chat so people can just speak freely as we do here, and just throw a couple of questions. Also, just perhaps based on what we've heard in that first 45 minutes. I felt like that would be the better way, because then it really presents as a very useful recording for people to refer back to, or maybe share on perhaps other pages and in other groups. Otherwise, you've got all of us sort of trying to figure out what one thing means in a 5-minute window when it could be explained clearly by one guy. Or I just felt like it'd be more. I know I say about not having structure, but I think that one in itself needs to have a bit of structure. So if you keep that question you had in mind, and keep that for the for next, raise it on next week's VC, because it's a damn good question.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's just jurisdiction. Yeah, the main question was basically, does Clarity Act, is there any provisions in Clarity Act other than yield which actually matter here? I think that was the main question. At 11, was it 11 p.m. UTC, did you say?
Yeah, 11 p.m. up here. 11 p.m.
Okay,
UTC.
what time is it now? What time is it now, UTC?
It's 13:51, 10 to 2 in the afternoon. Yeah.
So let's say 14 UTC right now.
Yeah.
Right now. So 11 p.m. UTC will be 2 p.m. UTC right now, roughly. So
Yes.
11 p.m. would be 9 hours from now, which is in the morning for me. Okay, great.
Yeah,
I stopped myself. Yeah,
be about 9 a.m. for Sydney.
Yeah. What day? What is that next? That would be Wednesday morning. Yeah, Wednesday morning for us.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
you guys, it'll be Wednesday morning. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Michael. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. How are you guys?
Hey, Michael.
Just a fly on the wall, really.
How goes it?
Hey?
How goes it? You doing all right? Yep.
Yeah, no, yes. Yeah, no, not too bad. Just came back from the pub actually. But it was interesting to see Liberty Swap's view on the Clarity Act not being a necessity. But if we hold any weight to what they say, which I do, but I thought it was interesting regardless.
Me also.
See what happens. Contrary to what even Nine I was saying, because even he was saying post Clarity, you know, he was always kind of, you know, it was brought up quite a lot. So it's kind of contradictory to what he said, but it's not the first time we've seen this.
Who still thinks that that Liberty Swap is Richard Hart or Pioneer related? I still think so. Just
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's pretty clear to me. But
very high probability.
Yeah. Just plus they've been in development even to themselves for a few years. I think they made a comment saying that only yesterday, and they've only been public for about a year, roughly. Why become public, you know, 2 years after you've developed protocols and things like that? They're also conveniently rolled out one after the other, aren't they? Like imagine developing Hype Market within immediately after a release of 5 other protocols. So to me, they've got them all ready lined up and just slowly, you know, drip feeding us with the marketing, you know, which is what RH was always spoke about. Let the non-believers sell, and then once they're out, then begin the marketing campaign, which I believe what we're seeing right now. Plus, you can see the correlation and the consistency of what he's saying alongside the, you know, he's always bringing up anonymity, and then alongside the protocols that Liberty Swap is talking about. I mean, we've got native railgun being released this month, I believe. Wasn't that what they said? It's a lot sooner than I thought, which is good. I think it was this month. But yeah, looking very positive, I think. July, who knows? But I mean, a few kind of community developers and members pointing to that, including Maria, Liberty. Plus the fact that we may not need to wait for clarity, which is positive. But who knows? I mean, we hope and cope, right?
I've always wondered what Maria's doing on for pDAI and the thing. Like, I don't know. I know this chat has a sensitive sort of approach to Maria and Atropa and all that stuff. I never really understood it. All I know about that is whenever pDAI goes up and down, Atropa also goes up and down, literally in lockstep with it. That's the only thing I know about it. But yeah, it'd be like.
It's a good segue.
Is there an official position about Maria that people have established or something about this? Like, is he a Richard Hart or is he an enemy of pDAI or what?
Well, I think it's the timing of his is very peculiar. I mean, I will say, yeah. So Hart's law, if you're familiar with that, the fact that assets that are bonded by the liquidity tend to follow each other, right?
Yeah.
Maria has built an entire ecosystem based on that law, an entire liquidity web where their assets are burnt with each other. And I think, to me, the timing is just uncanny. Imagine 5996 and other wallets minting pDAI, inflating the supply of pDAI in the early days, causing a price bottom at a 555,555x to $1. And in that moment that it bottoms, which isn't a large window, by the way, Maria comes out of nowhere, a very credible, very intelligent developer, buys up, I think it was 3 billion pDAI? Was it 3 bill or 5 bill? It was, I think it was 3 billion pDAI and then another 2 billion USDC. That was P. Both of these obviously are P assets. At the very bottom of this quote unquote exploit mint that occurred. You know what I mean? And he spent quite a lot of time and money. And it's not a small it's not a small bit of work that he's done. It's actually quite incredible. So I believe there's definitely some, obviously, to me it's very clear to me what's happening.
Some
And then, of course,
collaboration.
yeah, I think absolutely. Maria's well, James, whatever the fuck you want to call him. He's even kind of James Rahel, whatever it is. Even on video, he's kind of said so that quote unquote they've got everyone working like on Ethereum is working alongside Richard Hart. I mean, that's what he said. So we take that with a grain of salt. But yeah.
Yeah.
Up, boys and girls.
G'day, Doc.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Hey, Doc, how you doing, man?
I'm good, mate. I'm not too bad. I'm just chilling out in the park. I'm sort of just listening into what you guys are talking about, and yeah, it's just lots of exciting things happening at the moment, isn't it? And just staying focused on that, really. Everything seems to be coming to a head this June, July, and just trying to stay sane in the meantime, right? And DCA, and I like what Mike, I like what you said about we just hope and cope. That's literally all we do. I mean, it's the only way to play the game at this point, right?
That's right, yeah. Believe. But I mean, there's all the belief is kind of a funny thing because conviction makes up that belief, which is what we've obtained over the many years of being here. So, but yeah, absolutely. Hope and cope, to put it nicely.
Does anyone know how much collateral it would be needed to peg pDAI and where that collateral would come from?
Well, there's been talk about. I mean, Liberty Swap has always said that it would take a lot less collateral. Again, if you want to take with what Liberty Swap says, if you want to hold some weight to what they say, they believe you'd only need 500 mil. So, I mean, I don't have a lot of have too much of an opinion on this, but that's kind of I'm just kind of parroting what they've said. Is it's not as much collateral needed as to what many people kind of speculate.
Can I interject?
Please.
Go ahead.
Paul's vision, his second to latest video, explains that in about 145 screenshots. And there's your Hyperloop. And if you look at Dr. Pegger's site, I forget it, he created some new site. Coexistence Stephen, he went in depth on that. He made a video of this, and he goes very well in depth of, once again, the Hyperloop. So that's pretty much your answer, because everything gets brought together. Pegger, 9 irons, and decentralized me analysis. Basically, Dr. Pegger is actually staying, well, as much as he can, that is, up to date on this, but day in, day out, day in, day out. That's it.
Thanks.
Joe,
Sorry,
thanks
boys.
for your DM yesterday. I listened to it, but I couldn't send a voice note back. I listened, but I wasn't sure was I meant to reply. But I acknowledge everything you spoke about.
Just been trying to wait for a time to actually turn the mic on because I've got a brawl going on here between seagulls and pigeons. Fucking hell.
Who wins out of those two?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, pigeons are outnumbering them by quite a bit, but you know, the seagulls are, you know, they're the dominant size, aren't they? So they just sort of start squawking, and yeah, it's all a bit mental, to be honest. But yeah, we have a quiet moment. So I just wanted to say, like, I appreciate that, Joe Schmo, on what you said about the article and stuff. Yeah, so it was just to put it all in one place, and really the Hyperloop is the ultimate, like, that's how you keep the peg, right? The arbitrage and everything like that. So one thing that I did want to say was, you guys mentioned about Maria. The thing about Maria is, and I spoke to Coexistence Stephen about this last week, I'm not 100% sure on how Maria plays a role at this point, and I'll be completely blunt about that. And that's why I didn't really put Maria in my thesis. Obviously, I touched on it, but like, there isn't, you know, in a way, Maria hasn't really shown their hand, in the sense of, like, you know, initially. One thing I will say is I will push back on the whole narrative that Maria's a bad actor. That for sure I'm going to push back on. And the reason I say that, only purely because of the basis of before the chain launched, how well he spoke of Richard and how he talked about the 14 devs and the Ethereum guys and all that kind of stuff, which you guys touched on a bit today. The fact that was talked about before the chain launched tells me that he was already aligned with Richard at that time, and there was no real need for him to position himself that way unless you're doing like the long con thing, right? But the argument is, if it was the long con, surely the wrap is up by now, right? And there's too many. He garners a lot of attention, too much attention almost on that place, and he's launched coins, and he's, you know, and this whole what did Stephen say the other day to me? It was something along the lines of quantum fluid mechanics, something along those lines, like this this idea that like the same sort of technology that NASA use, and the fact that he was a NASA scientist, like you don't just become a NASA scientist off, you know, like you don't just become a NASA scientist and then go into, you know, do all these presentations and do these meetups and have all this kind of attention and intellect to then come back to, oh, I'm, you know, being a bad actor. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, you can still be a bad actor and still garner attention. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that there seems to be too many positive things happening with him or her, as we say. And it's just kind of like when you, yeah, exactly. And that's why I say they, you know, there or there, whatever he wants to identify as. But the bottom line is, it's like what is his contribution? And his contribution so far has been, apart from the public, I think the only time that we disconnected really the Atropa ecosystem was when he started saying, you know, I'm not involved anymore, I'm not sure about this, and I'm dumping it. But it was also the same period that Richard was dumping it. He was dumping it. Like, he was fudding it. Richard was fudding it. Catty was fudding it. It was that whole FUD campaign that we've kind of articulated, right? So yeah, I'm not 100% sure how it fits in. I just don't want to rule it out, and I don't want to rule it in either. Does that make sense? So I'm kind of neutral on it, but that was just what I wanted to weigh in on the Atropa conversation.
Do you know? Suddenly, this expression came into my mind when you mentioned it. He sounds like he's the anti-Jack Levin, basically, like the opposite of Jack Levin, essentially. If you know who he is, you know the Zen guy, you know, yeah, who's some mysterious person from, you know, an illustrious institution, and they're trying to, you know, create some sort of solution or something. Whereas Jack Levin just basically extracted. He sounds like he's more of a, you know, he's more aligned to a pioneer than an extractor, should I say?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear that. And something else I wanted to mention on that, Tanner, when you were speaking, you reminded me of something as well. It's that prior to the chain, right? Here's the other thing that people disconnect. Prior to the launch of the chain, he was extremely coherent, extremely clear and concise and direct about his communication in person. You know, when they did the meetup in where was it? Was it Sweden or I think it was Sweden. Or maybe it was somewhere. Amsterdam. That's it. Thank you. So yeah, so Amsterdam, that meet. I mean, we've a lot of us have seen the video, right? And many of us were there in and some of us were there in person as well. And you know, from what I saw in the video, it was very coherent, very direct, very, 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 very forthcoming about exactly what his intentions were and what he was planning to do, etc., etc. Now, where I think people are like kind of getting a bit confused is because on chain, obviously, what appears to be mumbo jumbo, right? What appears to be schizophrenic behavior, what appears to be all this confusion and blah, blah, blah. I'm one of these people that take the stance of just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's wrong, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't mean that it's like just it's got no value because I don't understand it. If that makes any sense. So I try and take this stance of I look at the video of who he was prior to the launch in person, you know, in that video, and like I say, and then I connect that and say, well, he can still be the same person even if he is super out there and rage baity and communicating. His communication style is completely confusing and off the scale, right? But that's only because you don't understand it. There are thousands of people in that ecosystem who track it and follow it, and there's a good handful of people that totally understand what he's doing. So, do you know what I'm saying? So it's like the same way, you know, someone like Tiger, or, you know, I'm just throwing his name out there, somebody or some hexicans or pulsicans don't understand what's going on with pDAI, and they just think we're mental, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't. It would give me cognitive dissonance to believe that they're like Maria and that are mental, but we're not mental. Does that make sense? Because we're deep in the trenches of the pDAI narrative, and we know, and not just the narrative, the actual mechanics, the science of it, and we understand what's going on. But because we don't understand, you know, quantum fluid dynamics, or whatever the word was that he used, it was something fluid dynamics. It's like, okay, cool. It's just You know what I'm saying? Yeah, go ahead, mate.
Yeah, look, I'm not an expert, but if you check YouTube, David P. Brown, rocket scientist Richard Hart, so a computational fluid dynamics supercomputer network. So that's the video that he's done 8 years ago. So you can kind of like see how Richard Hart is actually connected to that as well. Just wanted to tell you guys about it. That's it.
Oh, thank you, bro. I appreciate that. Yeah, computational fluid dynamics. That's the
It's
word
David P.
combo.
Brown. Yeah, so David P. Brown, rocket science. So that what I'm saying, if you watch the video, you see how everything's connected. Obviously, I'm like him. I don't understand jack shit what they're talking about, but you understand that that's what's happening in crypto with Richard Hart and Maria. Just
I appreciate that.
You'll get it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Machine, and I like the fact that you've connected that to Richard, because that's really the track, isn't it? It's like connecting the computational fluid dynamics to the rocket scientist,
That's it.
having that connection with Richard, and then the fact that he had that conversation with him and he's connected to him and he's well informed, and then Maria has that connection to Richard, or at least claims to have that connection prior to launch. So then you can sort of put all the dots together, right?
See, Richard
So
Hart
yeah,
is never
mate, that's really valuable.
Richard Hart is never going to admit that, man. It's dangerous, isn't it? So whatever he does, is calculated, right? So he's not going to tell anyone that he's connected to anything. You just gotta accept that, because it's dangerous.
Yeah.
You can't make a stable coin and then get in trouble with the government, like especially U.S. government. So that's what I think. I think whatever he does, he's not going to tell anybody. Really, he's going to act like he don't give a shit. I don't care. That's what is going to happen. But I'm just like you guys. I'm just going with the belief that he's doing something, he's behind it. But anyway, I just wanted to give you that information to you, so you can kind of connect the dots if you want to.
No, yeah,
Thank you, mate.
Was that removed from YouTube initially? Because this is not uploaded to a different channel called John S. Price. But was it originally on Richard Hart's channel? Do you know?
I'm just checking now. It is. No, it's no. This one is Sanford J or something. That's not Richard Hart. So it's
Interesting.
just
Interesting to see if it was removed since.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting spot there, Mike, because he did strip a load of videos off when the SEC case hit him.
Mm.
When he
Yeah,
caught the
that was-
case, he did sort of like remove a load of videos. I presume, presumably under legal advice, I think.
Mm. Yeah.
There
But
is a
after
video
watching, I
that
haven't-
Richard
I haven't
Hart put
seen
up
that.
where he was saying his partner is literally a rocket scientist and a polymath badass.
Yes,
Sounds very much like
that's the
James
one.
Osborne the third.
Yeah, abundance is right. I remember that video because if I remember correctly, you're referring to the one where they're in his castle, castle, wherever he was in Finland,
Seeing
and he had
himself.
his throne, and he had the other guy. There was two seats, and they were interviewing him in his house, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
I'm going to kill that crow.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, it's really valuable. That's really valuable information. I find that interesting, and also it's a two-part thing. Really, it's not just the legal side of it. Of course, he wants to protect his own ass, right? He wants to protect his own personal safety. That's a non-negotiable, right? I think we can all agree on that, because that's instinctual as a human being, right? Wanting to protect yourself, but like, and of course from law, but not just that. He doesn't want to give up his tricks, right? Let's be real. Like, he doesn't want to give up his intentions, and he doesn't want people on the tracks. A lot of it. I would argue that we've been on the tracks for a long period of time with him, and I think he knows that. And there's a reason why he's unblocked a lot of people, and there's a reason why a lot of pDAI guys are not blocked. Does that make sense? Like, there's a lot of reason where the pDAI guys are not blocked. Like, how many times he's been tagged and stuff. I've tagged him in the pDAI thesis and this and that and this and that, and other people have been tagged. Other people have been banned for less. Do you know what I mean? So there's definitely something going on here.
That's a good point, actually.
And to my recollection, every time Richard Hart spoke about pDAI, he didn't just make a comment, but he put a question mark at the end of the comment, making it a question rather than a statement.
Stop buying pDAI. Yeah, and then it's saying it's rumored that 5996 is exploiting. Yeah, it's never definitive. It's always questioned.
Yeah,
You're
and
right.
even if they said, and you're totally right. And even if he said, here's the thing, right? And it's important. I really like that you pick that. You boys bring that up because the question mark is powerful, especially coming from a guy who doesn't kind of what's the word? He doesn't like fail on his words. That he doesn't get anything wrong in his description. Right? He doesn't like muster his words. He's very direct about what he wants and what he likes and what he doesn't like, and he's very literal. You know, so it's very interesting to see that with a question mark, especially considering, you know, remember when he fudded EHEX and he was like, well, what we said, you know, our interpretation, the market's interpretation was he fudded EHEX. Obviously, you know, a lot of people would say it's neutral, but when he said, oh, it looks like the market is chosen, right? It's just a statement. It looks like the market is chosen. So it's not like, you know, stop buying pDAI question mark, not like stop buying pDAI full stop, as opposed to, you know, a directive. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if he cares about his community and he wants to direct us and lead us down, not lead us down the garden path and keep us invested, the counter argument to that is, oh yeah, but he doesn't want to FUD people out because he wants people to stay on the chain. But it's like, yeah, but he's done like something like, do you guys ever remember the 300, it was like 300 tweet thread that he created of every time he called a scam, and it got proven that he was right? Do you remember that thread that he used to have, that infamous thread?
Oh yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
what, we never made it to that thread, did we? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we never made it to there. He never called it out on his own chain and said, like, I don't want you, I want you guys off it. You know,
No, exactly.
the counter argument, you know, and there's no like, oh, you know, this trashed coin. Or also, here's another thing, right? If he doesn't want people in, let's just say, obviously we're making a lot of assumptions here, right? We're making a lot of inferences, and it's important that we acknowledge that we are speculating on certain things. But if we infer that he is behind it, and and that is presumable, then him not wanting to, him not fudding it, right? Him avoiding saying, oh look, it looks like the market is chosen, and then showing us as the biggest, you know, biggest volume on the day or whatever, that would cause people to ape in, wouldn't it? And that's the opposite of what he would want if he's behind it. So like the counter argument to, what I'm trying to say is, if you argue his communication style from both sides of saying like, what do we know, what's his pattern, what's not, you know, what would he avoid, what can we infer, whatever way you look at it, you can kind of, it all ties back to pDAI is what I'm trying to say. Like, it all ties back to the idea that he's behind it. Here's what I'm saying. It's not definitive. We've said it's not definitive, but all I'm saying is the probability is higher that he's behind pDAI than it is that he's not behind pDAI. And the only reason I say that is because of the amount of evidence that we have stacked in that favor of that, if that makes sense. So all I'm saying is, you've got to look at it from a probability perspective, because it's the same way billionaires look at it. Billionaires don't look at things as right or wrong or black or white or up or down. They look at things as probabilities. It's all about probabilities. They don't think about, well, what is this going to, you know, they invest in companies or they build businesses based on what percentage of the market am I likely to capture, and what is the probability of that actually happening? You know, so all I'm saying is, when you start putting yourself in that mindset of how he thinks, it kind of shifts the game a little.
I think right now pDAI is the perfect play in crypto. Simple as that.
I agree. I'm just going to read out some of these, I think, because it's kind of funny, especially in retrospect. Something has inflated the pDAI supply by multiples. pDAI has 25 billion supply now. DAI had under 10 billion at the Ethereum fork. Who's minting that supply, and why are they, it's rumored, dumping it and bridging out? Then another one, 15 minutes later. pDAI, it's rumored that this is a spreadsheet of guys that are minting and dumping. Perhaps they could do that forever. Coins that don't hyperinflate to death are cool. And there was one about secret keys. throw it in, get the free, but what does he have next?
Again,
Up and up my guy. Double and like when he
pretty bad.
I wonder if it was my internet, but it sounded like everyone sounded like a robot.
Yeah, I'm glad you weren't the only one, mate. I thought I was losing signal there. And I also saw about 10, 15 different people just join the chat. So that's a W.
I saw Trigon in here. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go, bro. Trigon, get on it, bruv.
My name is Jeff.
Very nice. Yeah, that was weird. Everybody sort of bounced out then. But we're back in. We're back on it.
Oh, you said something about who when you read out, I think it was when you read out the tweet on Richard Hart about it's like nobody likes coins that hyperinflate to death, which is true. But the question is, did pDAI hyperinflate to death? Has it been hyperinflating at the moment? I don't think it is.
No, yeah, for sure.
I think
guess
the
in that
dollar is
moment-
hyper. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, you go.
I said I think the dollar is hyperinflating.
Yeah, that's right.
Or it's about to.
Yeah. And it's I mean it all happened pretty quickly as well, and it all happened at one time. So that 44 billion is kind of, we sat in that 44 billion number for quite some time now.
I mean, if it truly was a hyperinflationary scam, you just keep doing it, and you just keep doing it nonstop. Like, from even now, like you just keep like reloading the hyperinflation. And the other question, I don't know, I'm sure someone would have said it, is why couldn't they have done that at 3 cents? Why did they wait until the price was down to 40/100% to do it, whatever the number was? Well, why didn't they do it in euphoria? You could have gotten a lot more money out of it if it was done at 3 cents instead. If it was a true scam, that is.
That's a good point.
I'm just hanging back and listening to you guys. I'm doing a couple of things here as I listen. You're raising some great points, Tennis Sands. Fair play, man.
Yeah, we've got a Trigon in the chat as well, Osprey. I thought, just FYI.
We've got
A wild Trigon. A wild Trigon.
Everywhere.
What?
I have a message for you from Birdseye. Birdseye faggots will appeal to your whole family.
They made them with lashings of gravy, so they've gone easy on the spice because kids don't like them too spicy, apparently. PulseChain even suggests that people who don't like faggots could enjoy these. They live in hope.
I think we all live in hope, bro.
Hope is all we got, sir. Hope is all we got sometimes at minus 99%.
That's why I
Yeah, I
gave
saw.
Trigon that morale badge. It is excellent, man. Brilliant. Thank you, Trigon.
Yeah, I saw a really cool post on X yesterday, which basically a guy was talking about how $100 at SAC is now $5, and he witnessed he found a transaction of the guy selling. So there was literally a guy who put $100 in at SAC and he sold yesterday for $5. And the guy was like, the guy who obviously found it was like, what? Why on God's green earth would you even do that? Like, if you aped, you can either ape another $5 and you double your position at SAC, and you've got woohoo, you got $200, but you still doubled your position, whatever way you look at it. Or you can ape $100 in today and you can 20x your bag. And it was like, it's just an interesting thought experiment because I thought people are actually selling at $5, which is wild. But yeah, you can ape in $1,000 is a 20x, right?
It's funny. It's like you can look at it in two ways. It's like, oh, my $1,000 is now worth $5, but then you look at it the other way. Well, in that case, if you buy $5, it's going to be worth $1,000 when it recovers. You see.
So yeah, it's just if you believe in the chain, right? If you still believe, and you still believe in Richard Hart, and you still believe in PulseChain, and you still believe in pDAI, like the time to buy is now. And what it is it's difficult, right? It's difficult emotionally and like whatever mentally to do it, to buy it and feel good about it, right? But that's the only time it counts. The only time it counts is when it feels difficult, like it feels like icky, and you don't want to do it. That's the time that matters. So
100%. When it's the most difficult to press that buy button is probably the time when you should. Absolutely.
It reminds me of going to the gym where someone says the last 2 reps are the most difficult because it's the actual ones that tear the muscle to
exactly. Yeah,
or the
exactly.
micro tears. And like all the other 8 reps of the set were just to set you up for the last 2, essentially.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Taylor, I was thinking now as I was writing away, something you mentioned earlier about like what's in the Clarity Act that's applicable to us. I think we mentioned 2 things. Something else just came to mind then, and it's that I think you were saying outside of like the stablecoin aspect, yield on stablecoins, what else is there that is applicable to us? And I don't think we really came up with much. Notwithstanding Dr. Pegger's research and then what we've got coming up on the 23rd. But it occurs to me really that the Clarity Act itself, whatever happens, let's say the law it passes into law. Well, doesn't that just further doesn't it further magnify the line in the sand, between what is truly decentralized and what is not? It will make it more obvious that there's something else out there to people. So it's kind of it serves us an advantage in that respect. Like people should see that PulseChain really is DeFi when the Clarity Act goes into law.
Yeah, it kind of categorizes the assets. Yeah,
That's a roundabout way of my saying it, but that's like the best way I can summarize
No,
it in my
totally.
head, you know.
Yeah, I remember you saying this before. It's a very good point. It kind of further brings more. I mean, brings more clarity as to kind of what assets go into which basket. Are they decentralized or centralized? It draws the
That
line, as you say.
this is it. This is the whole. There's two reasons personally I'm bullish on clarity, and that's one of them. Osprey, you literally articulated it perfectly, dude. That's the second one is the liquidity that it brings, but it does. But the first one, which is what you said, is that it delineates, right? It very clearly draws a line in the sand. As someone else said, and then that creates this huge demand because look, a prime example is the whole security tokens, right? The Zcash and that the reason that they did so well this cycle was because the whole market realized, oh, like we're going centralized, everything's going centralized. And then and everything's becoming like like how one big topic around the world right now is privacy, right? The war on privacy. So that's why those tokens took off. That's why there was this whole talk about Monero and Zcash and people are aping in and, these privacy chains and, even Dash got like some of these old school projects were sort of popping off. Obviously the big one was Zcash, right? But, and yeah, so all I'm saying is that it creates, as the market moves one way, the minority see that. It's the same way the Wall Street bets exploded during COVID, right? The whole reason it exploded was because everybody saw what Robin Hood was doing and how this house of cards had been been exposed, right? They'd seen that, oh, if I counter trade the narrative of this thing and I'm gonna short it or I'm gonna whatever I'm gonna do, and they sort of collaborated together and all pointed at the same thing, and that's why you've got that explosion, right? And because you've got so much power in such a small condensed area, that's why you get these runners. You get this one or two that just start running and they take off. And as you said, Osprey, like PulseChain is completely positioned for that because it is true DeFi. But what it is people haven't defined what DeFi is yet, and the beauty of the Clarity Act is it defines what decentralized finance is and what centralized finance is, and it does that clear line in the sand. And then all the cypherpunks. This is why so many people were saying about cypherpunks, right? Saying that PulseChain is the true cypherpunk chain, right? And it's the community. So yeah, it's just there's so many exciting things on the Clarity, and of course it's a it's a two-prong win because you've got the liquidity, and that's what I was saying about the liquidity before, about there's 100 trillion sidelined. It's 100 trillion with a T, and if you capture 1% of that, right, you're at 1 trillion. So conservative, you're looking at 800, and these aren't just numbers. I'm not just pulling them out of nowhere. You can verify it, right? You can verify these numbers. These real institutions cannot buy. I don't think people realize, this whole theory of everybody's in is still not actually true yet. Like people are still not fully in. Like the institutions are not in yet. You can say, oh, well, they've got a few bit of bags. They go, they go backdoor stuff, right? They go like, they'll get a person to become a facilitator to buy the bags, etc. Blah blah blah. But that isn't what they want to do. They want protection from the law on big scale, and that's what Clarity serves, right? So that then they can deploy at mass and then capture all that funds. And where's that funds going to go? They're going to go into Bitcoin. They're going to go into Ethereum, and it doesn't. And then you get this waterfall effect that a lot of KOLs have been talking about for years and years and years, and they're not wrong, because it does go like Bitcoin, Ethereum, top alts, and then you got your waterfall effect, right? The idea that liquidity flows from project to project, and that is true, but it's not just that. It's the fact that all that money comes into the market, and then the institutions look for new projects to invest in, and they're going to look at Ethereum, and then they're going to think, oh, I like Ethereum's tech, and people that have been around understand that PulseChain is a fork of Ethereum. So why would they fork the network? Are they doing it better? Are they not doing it better? And I'm not saying that institutions are going to announce an ETF for PulseChain. I'm not going to say that, because that would require institutionalization, and that's not the way the chain is built, right? It's built for DeFi. But what I am saying is those investors are still people, right? And they're still pensioners and people that have funds, and they want allocations, and they have kids, they have grandkids who are involved in DeFi, and they understand this whole kind of rage against the machine energy with, you know, how the boomers have, you know, they got the big piece of the pie, and the gens, you know, the millennials suffered, and the Gen Zs have got virtually nothing, you know, when it comes to traditional finance and, you know, getting yourself on the property market and going up in life. So it's all cultural. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the DeFi thing this crypto thing is almost like a response to culture when you really zoom out. But again, that money it comes in, the 100 trillion, what's it going to do? You know, I mean, you can only imagine the prices of $1 billion. I'm speaking positively here, right? This is eternal optimism. You know, saying imagine $1 billion of 800 billion coming into the market goes into PulseChain, but why not? Why not? That's like, what's that? Less than 1%. Why not? Why can't we consider that as a position when Richard managed to capture the top 3, top 4 spot on Nomics last cycle? Why can't we do it again? Why can't we? Except this time the guy's richer, right? The guy's got more money this time because he's got 600 million that he took off on Tornado. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, or it's just things to consider. That's all I'm saying.
I reckon 2% of 200 trillion is probably quite bearish, because the thing is that, like, with all these other boomer assets, like especially with, you know, the rate at which money printing is done, it's gonna get to a stage where people of the millennial generation or less are going to be thinking, well, you know, the only way that I'm actually going to make it in life is if I turbo long and go turbo casino mode in assets which boomers don't go into, like crypto, for example. So what? My property goes up in price by 4% a year, and I know that the money gets printed at, like, you know, 14% per year. Why am I putting it into boomer assets and just buying and being exit liquidity to them? Why don't we just play our own Ponzi games, basically?
Well, no one's buying houses, not where I am. This part of the
I mean,
world is
I live in a country where properties are like 13 times your income, so I know the pain.
Yeah. Well, I think we're just like, we're hedging there. It's saying like, hey, if it's 1% or 2%, if just 1% or 2% of that finds its way to XYZ, but like, is this on a timeline? I mean, doesn't money? Well, the person holding the money looks for opportunity, or the system holding the money looks for opportunity, and you'd want to find the most upside. And it really does feel like there's tremendous upside in crypto, because every institution is signed up to it. You only need to look at the sponsors of that, the Freedom 250 event. There's so much blockchain stuff in there. Banks, Coinbase, etc. Every institution seems to be positioning itself ready for something. Rules are seem more balanced, and things seem more accessible now than they did even 2 years ago. I've noticed it with my own bank. As much as they don't know much about, crypto in itself, all they know is they've heard of Bitcoin or whatever, but behind the scenes, their infrastructure is prepared for people that want to work from centralized to decentralized, or crypto to fiat, or whatever. I think all banks seem to be taking this position, and maybe it's just a little bit of time we need. That 1% or 2% could grow when systems and individuals start recognizing opportunity elsewhere for upside. And that's where PulseChain is different, because it's clearly functioning brilliantly in what's been a precarious market. Look at everything that's come and gone since mainnet. and all the people that doubt PulseChain, and so many of them have disappeared. So many, so say, competing systems or chains have had their exploits, or have, or just simply don't work for periods of time. PulseChain has never had any of these problems, and yet people call Richard Hart a scammer. It's just preposterous. Is the one person that's not being that. I think an awful lot of money could find its way to PulseChain. I think more than that 1 or 2%. The upside is surely here for something that is working correctly. I mean, it does work as intended, and it's worked as intended all the way through a really, really difficult market. Really difficult.
Exactly. And just on the my last point that I wanted to kind of refine a little bit, because I realized I didn't say the second part of what I wanted to say, which is that it's not just about the institutions coming in and buying the bags. It's about the green candles. It's about retail. If we get an up and to the right market, even if it's an institutional driven market, who cares, right? Because if it's driving up and to the right for the 12 months, because it will drive up and to the right, like overall, from the date of clarity being passed, because that's when they'll start accumulating in mass as quickly as they can, obviously competing with each other. And those green candles, that Bitcoin, whether that Bitcoin's breaks 125, hits 140 again, hits 140 for the first time, hits 180, you're on to 210, you're at 240. Richard Hart's target gets hit at 250. What price do we see Ethereum at? Right, so we're at 10k, we're at 10 to 15k ETH. What's that going to do to alts? It's going to send them. It's going to send them regardless, because retail are going to start paying attention again, and they're going to start coming back in. And it's not as binary as people say. Yeah, but because people who don't really understand how the markets work will say, yeah, but once retail come back in, then institutions will just dump on them. Yeah, that's the game. But it's not as simple as that, because we're still going to have a 6 to 12 month alt season when you can capitalize on the markets, because we've all positioned ourselves in alts, right? Because the alternative is you go buy Bitcoin, you get your 2x over your 4-year window, or whatever it is that you want to get. But the point is, we don't need this to not be an institutional cycle. We don't need this to be a cypherpunk cycle. We just need to be positioned on the edge case, which we already are. We're already positioned in PulseChain for that reason. So it just happens that by the tides of time, we've the way that it's gone, that we're ready for the Clarity Act, and the Clarity Act will benefit us. So yeah, there's the edge case, there's the liquidity, and those are the two biggest factors. That's the only reason I'm bullish on Clarity, to be honest. Like I can't see, and beyond Clarity, I can't really see who the next guy is, because I mean, you could argue, as Osprey mentioned, like we're mainstream in the sense that the sponsors are everywhere, right? Like it's become part of mainstream. People just think, oh, you're in crypto, cool. It's become a thing, like where people just have accepted it. But retail is still not in. You haven't got your mates, your normie mates, and your normie's mates' dogs, and their dogs' mates aren't in yet, right? The local taxi driver isn't in yet. The paint and decorator visits, you've never met him before, starts telling you about, oh, I bought this crypto. We're not there yet. We're not at euphoria levels that we were at. We're actually we're at the opposite. We're at the bottom, which gives us the opportunity. So it's like, that's where the upside is. The upside is in the climb. It's not at the top, because everybody here has probably bought the top at some point, and you know how it feels. So it's like, but just because it feels that way, you may have played the game wrong, but it doesn't mean you can't play the game right moving forward. So the people here who are positioning themselves, are going to benefit from that upside. So yeah, we just need clarity. We just need it. We need it. There's no bigger liquidity event than clarity. And people are saying it's a buy the rumors, sell the news, and all that stuff. They don't understand what it is. I'm just going to say it categorically. They don't understand what it is.
Yeah. I've been the last 10 days, I've been delving into this Clarity Act, how it's applicable to us specifically, but also for this upcoming VC. And I was going to bring this up next week, but do you know what? To save a bit of time and seeing as you're here, I wouldn't mind running it by you just to see, am I thinking about this correctly? So what I got from reading is that for PulseChain, in general, the key question under Clarity Act isn't is PulseChain legal? It's how decentralized is PulseChain today? Because the general direction of the bill is that regulators are focusing less on, or should focus less on, historical launch events and more on whether a network, say, is currently controlled by an identifiable person or a company or a group. But the framework in the bill repeatedly uses decentralization as a dividing line between assets and protocols that warrant heavier regulation than those that don't. So the questions, or like the observations I was going to put to our speaker next week, is that this distinction is based on a few little small points, like, can one person unilaterally change the chain? Is there an admin key controlling the network? Can funds be frozen? Does the chain continue operating if the pioneers disappear? And is governance genuinely decentralized or effectively controlled by a small group? And it was just my understanding that these are the sorts of questions Clarity Act appears designed to ask of all DeFi infrastructure. So with all of that in mind, I was going to ask our guest, under Clarity Act, if a blockchain was launched by a highly visible founder, in quotes, but later it operates without admin keys, censorship controls, or like unilateral governance, how much weight is given to the launch history versus PulseChain's present day decentralization? And I feel like with Clarity Act becoming law, I think PulseChain could be looked at as how it's operating now as opposed to historically. That's my take, but I wonder, can you see my point? Am I making sense?
Yeah, you're making perfect sense, mate. That's exactly what it answers, those questions. And that's the edge. That's the edge case.
Yeah, that's us, isn't it? That's where we're at.
And I think that's what comes back to I'm going to wait for the regulators to shoot themselves in the foot kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of saying, like, let's see what they make of crypto and how they build it, how they enforce it and all that kind of stuff, and then I'll look at what's signed into law and I'll operate based on that. So I think Rich has probably made a few assumptions along the way of how he thinks it will play out, and built based on that.
He may well have planned Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie.
With that in mind, almost building in a way where it accommodates whatever scenario plays out.
Yeah.
If this happens, then I'm covered here. If this happens, I'm covered here. And just having scope of all of that. And a lot of that's us just basing on how well we think we know Richard, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that is assuming that he will repeat market performance from previous cycle.
Are you happy to join in next week and sort of co-host with us? It'd be brilliant if you could.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I lost connection there. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely, that's what it's all about. I'd love to get stuck in and
Yeah, great.
chop it all up with the dude and learn. You know, it's all about learning. To be honest, for me.
I was saying to Tenor Sands because it's like the end product's going to be something recorded that everyone can refer to, but in different groups as well. It's going to be it needs to be as balanced as possible so that it can reach as many people as possible. Otherwise, I don't know. I just foresaw some. I don't actually know. I'm not sure what I foresaw, but I want it to go like super well because to get this guy's time is like I think it's a bit of a treat because Clarity Act is right there. We're right on the edge of this thing, and it's good to get someone's expertise. So I just figured, like for that, I think I ran this by you, but for that first like 45 minutes, say, I think we could get like the questions that have been submitted, and he's in receipt of them now, and he's going back and forth with colleagues where necessary who are lawyers, and he has his own legal experience and expertise. He has time to digest those questions, get some good, solid feedback, put it into writing, and then we can use that first 45 minutes to ask the questions that people asked and credit them for it. And it would be yourself, Stephen, and myself. I don't think I would even be involved in that 45 minutes. I mean, Stephen's an excellent presenter. That's why I asked him to help out. He's a very balanced presenter and he's great at asking questions. Where at the same time, you're really good at the technical side of this Clarity Act too. You've built such a great bank of information about it, and obviously people really respect you in the chat too. People are going to listen, and you're going to get it that bit further. And we're all balanced, right? We all have a balanced view, and we don't fall out about the yes, it said this or no, it says that. We're all trying to learn, and there's just a nice balance between us. So I think for those first 45 minutes, we'll just keep it the four of us presenting the questions to the guest. He gives our answers, and then immediately we open up the chat for everyone that's listening to have free for all. Ask questions based on what we heard in that first 45 minutes. It might even be 30 minutes. Who knows? It just depends how many questions he chooses to answer. But we're going to get some great feedback. I know that. And that first 45 minutes is going to be a very shareable soundbite to put in other groups. You know, it would be good for outreach. So the less, I mean, I don't mean to, I'm not looking to offend anybody. We all say great things in here, and but I would like for it to be as least cluttered as possible with questions that would maybe be better asked after the fact. I don't plan to be asking anything myself until this first part is finished. I hope that lands well with people, but it would just be a good soundbite that first 45 minutes to share around. If anyone has feedback, don't be afraid to say, because like you all may prefer that it be just open all the way. I'm totally cool with whatever the community thinks, you know.
I perfect way to do it. I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, the guy's time is valuable, and we do want to maximize the opportunity we have with him, and I'm sure he would love to share what. And once we've got all the information out, out on the table, we can too if we do control the environment, turn people the wrong way.
Your signal's very broken, Doc, but from the adjectives I can pick up, that was a positive. That was a very positive reply.
Oh, I see. My bad. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but all the adjectives were like, yes, excellent.
Yeah, no, I was just saying. I think the 45 minutes to clearly to moderate the chat for the first 45 minutes. I think that's the way to go. 100%.
Yeah, cool, nice one. All right, that's what we'll do. And he might stick around for a good while after. You know, it's the end of his work day, so I think he'll have a bit of time. You know, so we might get the 2 hours. Who knows? It would be cool. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And the more specific the questions. I mean, obviously, I know you've shared some of the questions with me privately. I think they're amazing. I think, you know, as big and as complex as the question can get, the better, really, because we can simplify it for everyone anyway. But it's better to go straight to the source of someone who's dealing with it directly, and then we can kind of go from there. Because the nitty gritty is what we want.
Yeah, we do, and we can always deliberate over the recording in our own time as well. We can discuss it all again on the next VC, and say, hey, remember this question that came up? Well, I've been looking at that and X, Y, Z. It's all food for thought, and it comes from, like, the answers are going to come from a good place, even though they may even be answers that we don't want to hear, or it doesn't matter. It's all coming from a place of experience. So, you know, it's got to be, that's positive, right? It's direction, at least.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I agree with you completely on Stephen being a great host. I think he is. He's so neutral, and that's a real strength in a space where, you know, it's very easy to become divisive when you're in markets, because we have natural biases.
Yeah, he's been good behind the scenes here, helping with all these ideas for how to present the VC, the types of questions. Like he put some questions in there. They're really good. They're really good. They're honest. Like, I want clarity to become law like everybody else, but he's got some really good questions from an on the fence position, and they're the tough questions that need to be asked. Like, he's totally respected that, and that's like right on. I like that, and I do like his presenting style. You know, I remember listening to him speak with Bud P, and they were nice conversations to listen to. You know, pleasant.
I've got to get on with Bud again. It's been so long.
Hey man, how's it going?
Hey, I've just been listening to the last sort of 10, 15 minutes. Nice to hear from you guys. Thanks for the kind words.
You're welcome. I think it's shaping up to be a good, and I don't know. I don't know. The turning point will be if Clarity Act becomes law, but I think it'd be a good way to crystallize or further crystallize this Clarity Act deliberation we have weekly. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah, it is. And I hope that whatever happens and whichever direction it goes, everyone maintains a positive mind, because I don't possibly see how we can fail in the end, given the consequences of that. And yeah, you mentioning Barden, one of my favorite quotes that he says is when he talks about how we've threaded through the eye of a needle, just everything that's happened with PulseChain and all the steps and everything. So something will happen. They'll fumble it in some way. There'll be something in there that we can dance around, and we'll slip through the crack and we'll win in the end. So it might not be this time. It might be this time, but it's going to be sometime for sure.
Hey Osprey, it's Hexy. I hope you're well. Looking forward to next week on the Clarity Act. Should be interesting. Just one little comment I have is that both Liberty Swap and 9iron have made comments fairly recently about that Clarity Act is not perhaps as important as we all think it is. Maybe that's just in relation to PulseChain or the PEG. I'm sure it's very important in relation to wider crypto, but I haven't raised any questions, but it'd be interesting to get your experts' take on some of their comments.
I think that, hey Lexi, how you doing? I think that's coming.
Right, cool.
It's built in, and I'm pretty sure too that'll be refined further after the first part of the VC. We actually mentioned it a little bit at the top of this one. Because I read that same Liberty Swap post too, and it's almost separate to the Clarity Act conversation we were going to be having, because perhaps somebody knows something more. Like this is that plan B or plan C, you know, all eventualities options that pioneers may have. Maybe that's why they're saying it's not really relevant to us, but at the same time, I think we want to be as educated as we can be. It's all very well someone saying something to us. Mind you, that could be argued for our guests too. Those principles are the same, but it's good to get information from all sides to formulate some sort of opinion. And then you can maybe read a Liberty Swap post with some more confidence that they are saying something that's, yeah, it has weight behind it. I think that Liberty Swap and 9iron could be right. But I don't put all my eggs in one basket either. I like to, like anybody else in here, I think we like to have a good rounded opinion. And the opportunity is there to, you know, get some good expert opinion and take it from there.
Group 1, 2, and 3.
Somebody said something there, but it was very, very quiet.
Yeah, I think it comes back to the theme of probabilistic thinking, which we touched on a little bit earlier. I know Stephen's a big one for probabilistic thinking because it eliminates bias, and I'm personally I'm one of the people that let's just say, like, counter argument to my own thesis. Let's say I still consider that I could be wrong on clarity in terms of pDAI. I know I'm definitely not wrong on the liquidity. So my argument there is, when I say wrong, I mean, like, you know, when you come to a conclusion, ultimately you're right or wrong, right? But the research is totally fair game to be discussed and debated, and we can come to our own conclusions and along the way and stuff like that. And all I would say, Hexy, on what you said, which I thought you brought up a really good point about 9-9 and Liberty. What I will say is there's a couple of scenarios here. Either A, they're not putting any weight towards it because they don't want to from a game theory perspective. B, they just genuinely believe that it doesn't matter. And then in which case, if it is B, it should really be kind of my only response to that is that's cool, but show us your reasons why. Everybody knows, like, when you're doing your math equations and stuff like that, you still get marked for your workings out. So that's my only comment on it. I don't expect 9-9 to prove to us why the clarity doesn't matter and why Liberty Swap, believe that the Clarity Act doesn't matter. But my argument is, if we're going to put any weight towards those comments, really they do need to provide the reasons why, because we've come up with tons of reasons of why it does matter, if that makes sense. So I currently give it like an 80% chance that 80-90% chance that that's the only thing that I can think of why we're still waiting. Because the counter argument to is, if it's not for clarity, then why have we not pegged yet? You understand? So then the question is, if we haven't pegged yet because let's just say it's clarity doesn't matter, and it's not about the peg, as in like technically, then it comes back to, okay, so the argument is what he wants higher prices. If he wants higher prices, maybe that's a fair enough reason. But again, that comes back to clarity, because clarity still carries the liquidity. So what I'm saying is, like, whatever way you want to argue it of why it does or doesn't matter, I can't see any basis of why, like, they would have to prove it. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying that in order for me to update my worldview, I would have to see something of substantial kind of argument to say, no, it doesn't matter, and this is why. Because at the moment, it's kind of like, it's very heavily stacked that clarity matters more than it doesn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. I agree with all of that. Well said.
Do you guys have a link for the post that you're referring to?
Can you repeat that again, Stephen? Sorry.
Do you guys have a link for the posts you're referring to? You mentioned it was 9-9 and Liberty Swap. Is that right?
Yeah, there was a Liberty Swap post yesterday overnight, my time. Someone had meant. Oh, sure, I'll look it up now. See. I think it might have been a Liberty Swap reply. Liberty Swap.
I've got a feeling that the alpha's going to start ramping up these next few weeks.
Absolutely.
I've got a couple of bits myself that are operating in the background, which I'm looking forward to sharing as well. It won't be next week; it'll be a couple of weeks down the line. But that's if 9-9 doesn't beat me to it. So let's see. And key obviously is always verify, right? You don't want to jump the gun.
And in a space where things change quickly too, it's not easy. You have to work quite hard in this space if you're gathering information to relay, because you've got to be mindful of time. It's not easy. I know that. You're very, very good at it.
Yeah, and it's balancing wanting to be first versus wanting to be right.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. A lot of people want to be first, and it doesn't help.
Yeah, no, and I get it. I do get it, because obviously, it gives you a few ego points, and you feel good about it because people hold you in high regard. But again, again, it's more important to be right. It's more important to be right and factual, than it is to be first always, because it takes a long time to build a reputation as well of being somebody seen as trustworthy and being trustworthy, being a reliable person. So then, I think that's where sometimes people got upset with Dirty before he disappeared. And fair dues to the guy, because he did well. He did bring tremendous alpha, but there was a lot of times where sometimes he would jump the gun and he'd post quickly, and people sometimes it'd be like he just wanted to be first at all costs, and that's something that I've always personally tried to avoid, because you don't want to lead people down the wrong route, because people will hold you accountable regardless of whether no matter how many disclaimers we put on websites. I mean, look how much stick Richard's getting, and he's not even in control of the market. And he's getting hammered, day in, day out. But fortunately, he's a man that can handle that kind of heat. But yeah, it's just the nature of the beast. Just being smart about it, making smart choices.
Stephen, I've
And
just sent you the sorry, Peggy. I just sent Stephen the link to Liberty Swap's Clarity Act theme post. I'll drop it in the message in this chat too, actually, because some people might not have caught that.
I was just nice one.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Osprey, and I just wanted to give you and Coexistence Stephen some flowers as well, bro, just for organizing these VCs first and foremost for you, Osprey, because without the VCs, we wouldn't even properly be able to formulate our thoughts and talk openly and debate and stuff. So just wanted to say appreciate that, and and Stephen, just good to have you, but back in the swing of it all, and putting out content and shining a light on it, because there are people that are on the sidelines who don't interact and don't jump on a mic and don't have aren't in it for they're in it to just make money and go about their business and look after their families, and they're not in it for for the cypherpunk energy, but they want to make money, and they don't really know what's going on, and they don't really understand a lot of the technical side. And Osprey, you provide a platform where people can actually talk about that stuff, and we moderate the chat together, and we work hard, and a lot of that is to do with you, especially since you've taken over the chat, since Freedom gave you that, and so yeah, I wanted to give you flowers, and then also Stephen, again, for shining a light on what's going on, and also having that neutrality. Me and Osprey were talking about it earlier. I don't know if you caught it, but we appreciate how neutral you are. And it is a strength in a space where people very quickly become divisive over, and I said it earlier, that over their own biases. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
Mhm.
I appreciate that. It's definitely been one of the hardest things to do, I have to say, in crypto, to be neutral.
Yeah, it's not easy. I think this kind of goes back into your other point about the whole being first and being right. This was the premise of doing VCs in the first place, because it takes that, it dampens that opportunity that people chase to be first all the time. If there's a shared space where people are using their voices, and keeping in mind, crypto is a super quiet space, super quiet. It's all you'd think your brain tells you it's really noisy and super busy and super volatile and full of activity. And you almost assign sound to it, but it's completely silent for the majority of the time. But when you have a VC, we're using our voices and we're exercising a part of our brain which seems to be more sociable and more caring and more, I don't know, it's like you really do feel the community sense of things, and it becomes a priority and it becomes more respected. So the race to be first is dampened by the need to have shared insight. And that shared insight seems to be more strong this weather. So that's why I'm enjoying the VCs. That's why they're here. It's a means to perhaps introduce more of a balanced and community focused opinion. But thanks, Peter. It's very kind.
Absolutely, mate. No, I love what you, I love what you said as well about kind of the voice, like, you know, that it's such a loud, that it's such an expressive environment, but there isn't a lot of, like, even just reading the chat, you know, the chat is such a loud thing, but it's actually not audible, which made me laugh because I was thinking about my girl whenever she. Just, obviously, I'm on my phone all the time, and she's, you know, often she'll be like, "Are you texting girls?" I'm like, "No, I'm texting Osprey." I'm texting Osprey and Coexistent Stephen and Trigon. So make of that what you will. But yeah, it's it's quite funny.
The brain will, over a period of time, like we've been here a long time, and you begin to assign in your mind, you assign voices to people you've never even heard their voice. You assign an image in your head of who they are. You try your best to assign an identity to a person because you're always trying to formulate a social environment or a community. This is just the human way. And when you're you're almost prevented from doing it when you don't have voice interaction. But when you have voice interaction, things just feel better. It feels like there's a release, and you finally get to meet your people. You don't feel so isolated when you're just scrolling through some thread on X, and you wonder, is it just me that thinks like this, or I wonder, do they really think like that? And it's a silent space. It's great. It's great to have voices. It helps. It's a great feature of Telegram.
Absolutely, and I think that's another reason. I mean, Stephen, you'd probably be able to weigh in on this. You know, I know you've arranged a lot of obviously virtual events as well, the pDAI conference, which was awesome. And you've also done in-person events as well, haven't you? And you've attended in-person events specifically in Australia for around crypto. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about that, bro, and what your experience was? Because I think that's I haven't been to a crypto event physically, but I'm really looking forward to the first one I attend because presumably we're going to be higher prices and yeah. But yeah, if you could speak, what do you reckon, mate?
Oh man, yeah, that's honestly where a huge part of my passion comes from for this space. Actually, yeah, I think. I mean, I've attended a couple, and one of them was more of a meet and greet, party time, kind of at a pub, connecting, having fun. The objective there really was just to connect and have fun. What I'm trying to do with other Australians is build a community where we can actually set a standard for utilizing cryptocurrency. So basically, the question that we're proposing is, can communities take back ownership of technology and use it for the betterment of people? And the core thesis is that the new financial system is at the convergence of blockchain, artificial intelligence, and community-led initiatives. So I've really been thinking a lot about this, and we've been connecting, and it's the power is there, man. So like, basically, we started with just very small seeds planted around the country, and you know, 2 or 3 people here in one city, and 2 or 3 people there, and we had the 20. Now, once we actually created the non-profit organization, we had 20 at our first one, which we were really happy about. And one thing that I was extremely happy about in relation to that was at the last minute, we got the 20, and it was room capacity. And a lot of it had to do with the social trust that I'd built on my YouTube channel as well. So the people that came along and invited their friends came with that. So that made me really happy. And that's something that we're really trying to nurture, this sense of genuineness and community, because the blockchain and the code and everything it's trustless, and there's no middleman. There shouldn't be any trust in that. But and I agree with that concept fundamentally. But the people, I still truly believe that there has to be some level of like maybe not trust is the right word, but it's about the people in the end. So yeah, getting in that environment, and when you hear feedback from one of your friends who's like, I thought I was going to be in a room full of crypto bros, but everyone there was so genuine and welcoming, and if I was ever going to get into crypto, this would be the kind of space that I'd want to connect with, these types of people. That was for me very profound. So we're really trying to build that momentum of sincerity and genuineness, and we're trying to do something to actually change everything, really. I mean, if this idea works, which I'm struggling to see a flaw in it, actually, then I don't see any reason why the seeds of a new financial system don't get planted in Australia. Come up with the legal structure, coming up with the minimum viable product at the moment. So I'm working really hard on it. Like, my energy is just bursting with ideas, and just absolutely love it. Absolutely love it, to be honest with you. And we got one coming up on the 4th of July in Brisbane. We're just, all the pieces are coming together, man. Like, we set up crypto payments now. The first one we didn't have crypto payments. Now we have crypto payments with Helios Pay. So there's 11 blockchains integrated into it. That just all the pieces are moving, and each time we learn something new, and connecting with the community is the key. So for example, now with this one, coming up with 3 minimum viable products, and myself and the co-founder Jimmy, we've come up with a lot of ideas, but we're struggling to know what is the real going to be the correct answer. And you can interrogate AI with these things as much as you want, but the best way is to do it amongst the community as well. So present those ideas and options to the community, get the feedback, and each time it helps us grow. Like, it's awesome, man. It's awesome. And even the negative feedback, or what is perceived to be negative feedback, like at our first, the one we did in Perth, which we really went all out. We got photos and everything like this, which you should check out our Helios Pay page. I'm so stoked, those photos and everything. But one of the criticisms was we kind of came with a big vision and pie in the sky, and we wanted to kind of pull people into that vision. But then there's people who are very logically minded and plan minded. They want to see numbers and data and fact. And then one of my friends who was there is like, okay, this is all good and well, but you're never going to overtake the financial system. Like, how are you actually going to do this? Like, you're talking about buying a coffee shop and starting an economy. Like, well, what about everything in the supply chain? You have to connect that to crypto. And in the past, I might have got offended by that, and like, there's this negative comment, but I took it on board, and actually it's been the key driver for the content in this particular, in this one coming up in Brisbane. So the world itself, the universe, which I just see as the universe, is leading the way. So, okay, that is an issue that needs to be addressed based on the information that I'm presenting to the world. These are the flaws in the information. That's how I take it. So the universe is showing me that. So then I take that information in, I process that information, and then we get closer to whatever the ultimate solution is. So long story short, the community stuff is the absolute best. That's where the real stuff happens, in my opinion. And that's where, what we're trying to come up with essentially is the model that I'm thinking is we start with a minimum viable product. I'll just give you one example. But basically, if you want to create an economy, you do have to integrate the entire supply chain. So my first line of thinking was, well, what if it's a house? If I was going to do a house, well, I would need the plantation farm. I'd need the place where they cut the wood. I need the place where they process it and blah, blah, blah. Everything that goes into a house. We'd want all that stuff, and we'd want to own all of those assets so that we cut the middleman out at every single stage. And then the end product is a house that's 40 to 50% cheaper than what's on the market today that you can sell to the members. And so all the members within the legal structure own the assets. And this is the beauty of it. It's really just kind of what's already in the world, but on blockchain with AI and with the right kinds of principles. It's just beautiful. So now if you imagine a house, there's all these people along the supply chain that are trying to profit off each other. So by the time it gets to you in Australia now, it's like, 1.5 million for a house. It's insane just to build a house, maybe or maybe not to build a house. But anyway, it's really expensive. So again, when you as a collective, you combine your money instead of the old crypto mindset of just wasting money on a house, which becomes a dead asset. Maybe it appreciates over time. But wouldn't it be better if we pulled our money together, accumulated the assets that go into that house, and control the production, and we don't need to have all the profits? We can cut the profits down to like 5%, and all the members are benefiting from that by virtue of the membership. And you essentially continue to expand that membership until it becomes an economy, and everything's just like a self-feeding loop, and it's a flywheel, and it all feeds into each other. So it seems to me like the core of the thesis and the idea is in the right direction, and now it's kind of like just crystallizing just bit by bit by bit by bit. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, and I'm sorry because I've been working extremely hard on this for the last 3 days, and it's just been like pouring out of me. So I'm full of this energy for it. So yeah, like even the incentive structures, man, the incentive structures have to change. Like even trying to, some of the things that I've been thinking through with Claude, for example, the incentive structures of the current financial system is self-centered. That's not to say self-centered in a negative way. It's literally just a matter of fact. It's just the way that it is. And what I mean by that is, a clear example is corporations, by virtue of their existence, they demand more profit. So when you continuously demand more profit and you're legally obliged to make more profit for your shareholders, what does that do? Like just logically, you just look at that and it creates the ballooning wealth gap. It's not a mystery. It's not magic. It's like it's obvious. It's embedded into the incentive structure. So the whole incentive structure is just totally flawed. So the incentive structure is one of taking in this current system. It's one of extraction in this current system. So the new system has to be one of giving, has to be one of selflessness, and it has to be one where people realize through the logic of the system that what I give to the system actually gives back to me. Whereas now it's the reverse. What I take from the system, I take for me and my family and fuck everybody else. It's the complete wrong way to live. It's the complete opposite way of living. The true way to live, the right way to live, is to realize that everybody is one. And then if we all work together, we can win together. And I say these things and people think it's just kumbaya and all this kind of bullshit. But it's actually just fucking the logic of the universe. It's actually the logic of nature. But people don't realize that because they're so steeped in their self-centeredness and their greed. They don't even realize that that's what nature is. Nature just gives. The tree doesn't demand anything from the soil. The bird doesn't ask permission to eat the worm. Nature just gives. But humans just take, and that's the problem. And so the new economic system needs to be one that's giving. And yeah, I'm kind of ranting a little bit now, but really just kind of nutting out these ideas with AI has just been so much fun. And yeah, the community's where it's at, man.
That's right, Stevie. Preach.
Yeah, and I think that's reflective of I think a lot of reason that a lot of people are here is because that reflects from Richard as well, because a lot of these ideas he's talked about people, you know, he's always come across to me at least as a very generous human. You know, and yeah, I just think generosity goes a long way. So I think we're aligned on that 100%.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the deeper that I've understood Richard, the more that those things have become apparent. I mean, I was not a day one disciple of Richard. I came in through a friend and then I listened to some content of Richard and I was like, this guy seems like he's got the right kind of mindset. He seems like a genuine guy and he wants to make the world a better place. But the depth of his being, I probably wasn't really truly aware of. And so this is really something where it's like, yeah, hearing those types of things, like he says something along those lines where like there's really nothing more important than people or something like this. It's like a really beautiful thing. It's a really beautiful sentiment, and it's true, but you don't really pick up on that. Like that sort of stuff got overshadowed in some ways in his outrage marketing days, which was a real shame. But you know, this new Richard that we see and the videos, like his sincerity and his genuineness is just it just shines. It shines out of him, and it's really lovely. And how much he's taught us about DeFi and these things, like, man, I never cared about these things before. I never thought that they were that important, but yeah, I mean, it seems like one of the most significant things that we can do right now in terms of in terms of the financial landscape.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and as you evolve, you know, because we're all evolving as humans, you're kind of you're learning new things, and like you say, I'm the same in that, Stephen, in that I care about stuff now that I never used to care about. I didn't used to care about all this stuff, like you say, like middlemen and security and privacy laws and human rights and all that sort of stuff. Never. I just never batted an eyelid. I always thought that, I've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I know more than I'm not going to buy a house. I'm going to wait. I'm going to invest in assets and build my wealth that way, and then maybe buy a house later. Or I'm not going to spend my money on dumb stuff and try and accumulate and try and invest and find a vehicle to invest in my future so that I can eventually earn some form of passive income and escape the rat race. All that kind of mindset. Do you know what I mean? That mindset shift that happens with a lot of people. But I never considered all the responsibility that comes with that, which I think comes as a result of accumulating wealth or becoming or getting around wealthy people and then understanding how they think. And even though a lot of us are still waiting on that payday, so to speak, I think a lot of people are already making that real formulative change ahead of time to become the people that are kind of not only worthy of attracting that into their life, but knowing how to keep it and sustain it and, pay it forward, because it is a journey. It's not, sometimes you see like these little quotes, like, I had to become a millionaire in my mind before I became a millionaire in the bank. And it's this idea that you kind of have to become the person in order to not only attract it but to keep it and yeah, just and then have the responsibility of having that, because it's kind of like once you've sorted yourself out financially and your own needs are met and your own family's needs are met, then the question is what's next, and then obviously it's other people. So yeah, Rich is a good example of somebody who's gone down that journey himself and already acquired it, and became retired at 25 and multimillionaire, found Bitcoin, became part of the community, and then so he almost started his journey in crypto coming from a place of giving because he didn't have anything that he needed. And it's a very interesting dynamic when you're coming from a place of like you're not trying to gain anything from anyone else. So I loved what you said, Stephen, about human beings wanting to take. And don't get me wrong, there is greed. Like some people just have greed in them. So we've all got we've all got that feeling at certain times. That's why it's called the fear and greed index, right? Because it happens in markets and it shows up and manifests on the charts. But you can also control it, and also every person has their own limit. So it's like everybody has a certain threshold when you've met all those needs financially and in their own lives, because obviously money can manifest a lot of other things like freedom and love and prosperity and community, and time dependent. Like you don't have to be dependent on time or dependent on the hourly rate anymore, or you don't have the chains of a job or chains of this. You don't have to, maybe you're not stuck in a city or a country that you don't want to be in anymore. There's loads of manifestations as a result of that. And I just think when I look at Richard as an example, he's already journeyed that, so he knows what it's like to look back and say that, see those things, and he's got that perspective, where he can look back and say, I've done that, I know what it's like, I've peered behind the curtain, and this is what it's all about, and that's people.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that was along the lines of what the quote was. Like, yeah, there's nothing more important in the world than people, and like, I just can't stand the negativity towards him. Like, it makes me sick actually, because his life would be so easy if he just did what all those loser plebs who criticize him do. If he just stuck with Bitcoin, just rode his bags to the top, not waste any time with creating a token and attracting all this scrutiny and you're a scammer, and the way that he's pivoted his mind from Bitcoin to Ethereum, and not only just pivoted his mind, but like admitted, hey, that was wrong, and updated his worldview. Like, that's such a rare quality to have. That is such a rare quality to have. People's minds generally are very fixed, and particularly when it comes around money, it's really going against the sort of core of self-centeredness that majority of people live by, to really basically speak out against your own investment in some ways. So those types of qualities are just exceptionally admirable, in my opinion. And yeah, like even the way that he's talked about the middlemen, like just hearing those words again and again and again and again and again and again, it didn't sink in. It didn't sink in until I kind of looked at it for myself. I mean, even when I was doing this presentation now for the Australian DeFi community, it's like, holy shit, now I see it so clearly. It's like, yes, it's obvious. Like at every step of the way, the middleman is taking a cut. At every step of the way, everyone's trying to profit. Like, of course, the assets are going to keep growing. Of course, we're going to have to keep printing money. Like it's embedded in the logic of the system. The flaw is in the logic of the system. And he's seen this for like, I don't know, 10 years. How frustrating must that be? And that post where he was like, blessed to be able to see the future, but cursed that nobody else can see it. And I'm like, man, boy, do I know that. Boy, do I know that. I've been stuck in that dilemma for the last 10 years myself, related to other aspects of reality, but it's a profoundly frustrating and like beautiful tension actually. But yeah, I think I just think he's a wonderful human, and he's doing a lot of good for the world, and it's a real pity that he has to be in the shadows, and it's a real pity about the optics around him. But I just think I think there's going to be a big slam dunk at the end of all this.
Yeah, the slam dunk is the moment I'm looking forward to as well.
Yeah, but even going back to that self-centeredness and stuff, like it's someone shared with me just now. These people that someone was giving away free cookies, and then all these people like crowded around her and stole the cookies, and it was a particular religion, and he was like ostracizing that religion. I've seen the same with other cultures as well. It just comes from a lack. Like it comes from a lack, and that's all part of it's all part of the structure of the system again. Like even you hear like atheists say things like, "Oh, the kids in Africa, if there was a god, then why are they born with like insects eating their eyes from the inside out and all the disease?" And it's like humans did that. Humans did that. We exploited them. The first world countries exploited the first world countries, and they are fucked because of us, and they're fucked because of the economic system. Like that's why they're living in that kind of squalor. Australians don't live in that squalor because we're taking advantage of the system that we've propped up. That's why. And so when you think about like, okay, where does this future go? Like, man, for me, it's unlimited. Actually, like this idea that we're planting in Australia, I truly believe it's a multi-billion, if not a multi-trillion dollar idea. Like, I don't see where it stops. Once it starts, I don't see where it stops because it just snowballs into endless prosperity for everybody. That just seems like the logic of this system. So I look at it and go, well, we can solve the crisis with Indigenous communities in Australia, which is something that I was very passionate about for a long time. I'd always be an advocate for. I'm more of a left winger. I'm much more central, but I'm still left wing. But I was very left wing and like, oh, we're not doing anything for the Aboriginal people. Like, we're racist as a country and all these things, and we really had no solution, and we still have no solution. But this solution that we're coming up with, this gives them the tools to apply their way of life into the logic of this system with the code and the math, and it's theirs. Nobody tells them what to do with it. Nobody controls them. It's theirs. They own it. It's beautiful. It's sovereignty. So you do that in Australia. So that heals all the problems in Australia. You make Australia a country that is abundant, so we don't need to do all this bullshit. Stop the boats and the immigrants are the problems. All of that nonsense disappears. Then it snowballs into these third world countries. Hey, we have so much in Australia. We don't need all of this stuff anymore. Like we've got it all figured out. Here you go. You can plug into the system. We'll start you up, and this is going to eventually benefit us because basically you'll pay it all back plus some. And then you're one with this system. And then you being in this system is better for us and it's better for you because now you're out of poverty. It's like it's a snowball and it's so clear in my mind. But now it's just the steps of actually like putting laying those foundations into the world, which, yeah, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be lots of pitfalls. And like even today when I was doing it, what was super clear on Sunday ends up sort of dissolving a little bit today. And but then what about this problem and that problem? And I thought it was really right, but then maybe I was wrong. And then those kind of thoughts start coming up, but you just ignore it and you just keep moving forward. You get rid of those thoughts, you keep moving forward, and the solution will eventually present itself like it always does, particularly if you're on the right side of history and you're flowing with the world in the direction of the world. And as far as I'm concerned, like, I heard the earlier conversation about the amount of money that's going to come into crypto. I think everybody's severely underestimating it. Like the entire world is going to be on the blockchain eventually. Real world assets, everything's going to be carved up, houses, buildings, everything's going to be on the blockchain. Like, I don't see why it wouldn't. Maybe things are going to be like centralized, but it just seems inevitable that everything is going to go on the blockchain. So yeah, the sky's the limit. And the way that I see it is like, do you want to look back in 20 years' time with that profound satisfaction that I put my heart and soul into laying that foundation and I helped build that and the world is better because of it? Or do you want to wait 20 years for somebody else to do it and then just hop on and, okay, yeah, that's cool. And maybe for the last 20 years, it was you were sort of wandering, lost and aimless. Like, people talk about AI and a lack of purpose. People always talk about purpose with AI. For me, purpose is like effortless. You just live for the world, you live for people, and you'll find your purpose there. But again, the whole incentive structure of the whole entire economic system, which is where I started this rant from, was it's self-centered. So everybody's trying to take from everybody else. So when you come even thinking about what is my purpose in this world, you're even thinking about it from the totally wrong perspective, because the whole world has conditioned your mind into self-centeredness. So from the ground up, it's rotten from the ground up. So for me, it's like, oh man, what a blessing. Like even now I'm getting emotional. Like, I've just cried so much over the last few days with gratitude. I'm just like, holy fuck, like this is actually a reality. I remember I had a vision years ago, like 10 years ago, that Australia would be this. It was, for me, it was like this vision was so crystal clear. It wasn't something, it was just a matter of fact. It was not like this out of reality kind of thing. It was just an objective observation without even thinking about it. It's like, this is the trajectory that Australia is on. This is where we're headed. This is the spirit of Australia. This is what we will do. But outside of that vision that I had, and I look around and, people arguing about this and stop the boats and immigrants are ruining everything, and this self-centeredness that's like permeating society. It's like, oh man, that vision is just totally crazy. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. But now I'm just seeing it unfold before my eyes. I'm seeing that vision that I had all those years ago it wasn't crazy. It wasn't crazy. And I keep getting that confirmation from the universe that I'm on exactly and precisely the right path, and there is no other path to be on. It's really, really profound, and it's really beautiful. And I know I come at it from a very like metaphysical, spiritual kind of thing, but even mathematically, if you can design a system where giving is the incentive and you're rewarded for giving, it's I don't know, it just seems flawless to me.
Rich's heart is right.
Yes, he is. Richard Hart is right. It occurs to me, listening back to you there, Stephen, it's like there's a generation of people that have no skin in the game yet. And they're very small yet. But in the decade or so ahead, I wonder, will they look at Richard Hart differently than some of the doubters out there? It's a time horizon. It's a time horizon thing. We're in the process of adopting a whole other technology, and there's a generational issue. So many people are so used to TradFi. So many people are used to feeling safe. So many people are more reliant on banks and loans and everything that comes with that feeling of net safety, tried and trusted, the illusion of tried and trusted. But somewhere along the line, it's these people that are going to hopefully benefit from a new tried and tested, things like PulseChain, owning their own things, controlling their own coins, controlling their own privacy. So Richard Hart was right. I think it's going to compound more and more, I hope, over the years to come.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, as far as I'm concerned, 100%.
Say it with me.
Yeah.
Say it with me. Richard Hart was right.
Richard Hart was right.
That's a boy.
Good on you, young lad. Richard Hart was right. And going back to this community thing as well, something popped into my head. The power of the community is in creating the atmosphere and the environment that makes people comfortable with DeFi, because in their minds, rightly so, they just see it as scams and Ponzi's and rug pulls. because everybody's fighting each other for the pot of gold. Whereas if you can bring them into a community and show them that trash shit over there, which basically 99.9% of cryptocurrency is talking about, that's all fucking garbage. We're not even talking about that. We're not even concerned or interested in that, even in the slightest. What we're telling you and showing you is that this technology is superior because of A, B, C, and D, and we're going to show you the solution that's going to convince you that it's actually a superior technology. But now they just don't understand it. So that's where the communities, in my opinion, are so important, because there's only so much that we can do online. There's only so many voices you can reach online. There's an energy, and there's just an energy of being around people. There's an energy that occurs also online, virtually, but there's a special energy in being together with people. And when you can foster an open, genuine energy that brings skeptics in and slowly convert people bit by bit, it's just a network effect. So now it's almost like we've exhausted the network effect online. Now we really need to grow the network effect on the ground in these communities. So that's where these things are so important, in my opinion, which is also largely what drove Hex's growth as well, really. KFC TV, all those guys traveled around, the people traveling around Europe, like that's really the people in America, they did a lot. In Australia, I don't know how much we did in Australia in terms of like traveling around and promoting. I'm not too sure. But I would say, yeah, those types of communities were a huge part of the growth. But the thing is, again, it's like the times are different now. So that era of cryptocurrency, and this is not to say that Hex has failed or anything like this. I still think Hex definitely has a place to play within the PulseChain ecosystem. It's just that Hex was in that time, in that era where everybody was just wanting their own individual token to pump. We're now existing in an ecosystem, and this ecosystem is something that we need to nurture carefully with love and actually create the right kind of system embedded into this ecosystem. So it's more than just one individual token succeeding, but really probably 95% plus of the blockchain really only cares about that. They only care, they're still trapped in that old mindset of, I just want my token to pump. I just want my price to go up and then I can just leave. But no, that era is dead. So the new era is bringing all of this together into this new whole. And this is where the communities need to now come together and start spreading that message. And that's hopefully the standard that we're going to set and create in Australia, that we can start to share the ideas and the models and, open source it, essentially. Like, here's all our bloody PowerPoints. This is what we did. This is how we did it. This took me 100 hours, but you have it for free. Go and spread it. It has no value to me sitting here on my computer. Take it, build it, blossom it in America, in Europe, wherever.
How many, you're talking about when people, DeFi really is full of people that take advantage. And it's in the real world, it's in DeFi, it's everywhere. Opportunity comes in many guises, right? But you look at pDAI conference as a legitimate example of a backbone to an idea. Like if pDAI conference would be a great example of how DeFi can be when people land and want to find out more. It's personable. It allows for interaction. It puts faces there and voices. It checks all those boxes. Like pDAI conference was amazing. It was a real good example of the spirit of a community, a strength, even if it's just a seed. I think pDAI conference, let's say pDAI conference was a seed. I think something has grown from that. I think it's kind of a good answer to the question you asked of the situation we find ourselves in. pDAI conference was it, and is it? What can grow from that? Like, do we just need like more people at a conference, or are we all? Do we find ourselves talking just to each other all the time? Because at one point we all were, but I think we're reaching more people now as the market progresses naturally. But when retail comes, and they will come, I wonder what they'll be looking for, because they're going to have their own questions, and they're going to want to see some spirit, some sort of, I don't know, a reference point, and something like pDAI conference is it. I'm not saying like get to work, because it's a huge undertaking as well for just even a couple or three people. It's a huge undertaking to put that on. And I remember how, occasionally you'd have to go off to rest because it was like a full weekend, and you got different time zones and different constraints, responsibilities, and in a digital world, I'm kind of going around the houses here, but in a digital world, it's very difficult to have a central point of reliable, fair essence of community that people can arrive at and respond to. But I think pDAI conference is the closest we got to that yet. I hope all that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. That the pDAI conference was it was so good. I loved it so much. It was so much fun. Everyone
But
there was just
how can we streamline that? Can it be done? Can it be streamlined? It's just, I don't know.
what do you mean by streamline?
To take the efforts required, like we're in a digital age and things are so much easier in a digital age. Like we can communicate so much quicker, and we've got these amazing facilities like live video, and the voices are in time with the picture, and we can have 8 people on a screen at once and a live chat next to it. It's like amazing. But the effort required to do it, like I don't doubt it took you so much effort to organize it and communicate in advance of it going live, and just the communication as well online. What's up next? Who have we got talking? Tune in for tomorrow. We have so and so. Hey, I must contact so and so and make sure they're okay for tomorrow at this time. And it's a huge responsibility to put something on. Even if I remember doing the first VC on here, like I was really nervous. I've never done anything like it. I'm 47. I've never done a VC or put anything on like that before. And after a couple of goes, you're like, okay, I get it now. It's a lot easier. But to put on something like a conference is a huge undertaking. I wonder, is there a way to make it easier? Or maybe we have all the tools we need already. Maybe it's just effort that's required every time.
I think there's possibly ways that you could certainly leverage artificial intelligence to do some of those tasks, but I think in the end, the richness of it comes from the contributions from everywhere. So, yes, honestly speaking, that was I worked extremely hard for that, but I was just full of energy and I loved it. I loved it and I couldn't stop. So I didn't sleep, and I'd sleep for just a few hours. I was so passionate about putting this thing together, and I just felt so blessed to be putting it together, and everyone contributing in whatever way that they could was giving me the energy. So I just feel that it would have to just continue along those same lines. Like that's what made it so good, that there was all these contributors. And yeah, I like, Steve-O's was brilliant with his background. Bud was that awesome calmness, and he offered a lot as well. We had a really solid team, a really solid core, and it was a hell of a lot of work, but boy, it was fun. And just when people were so willing to give, it was fantastic. And yeah, my mindset is just I'm just going to do it, and if people want to contribute, then they can. Because I used to be, well, particularly when I was in university, like trying to wheel everybody to kind of like follow me, like, let's do this together, come on, but nobody can match that energy, and everyone's just like, nah, I can't be bothered. So instead of fighting the world, I've just gone, okay, well, fuck it, no one else is going to do it. Maybe I shouldn't swear if your son's in the room, so sorry, Osprey, but
He's
like,
cool,
yeah.
don't worry, you're way out of earshot.
That's
Do you know what I noticed about the conference is as how many times the speakers over those 2 days, when the conversation gets more relaxed, people get a feel for it and they find their feet with their voice, and that sounds like weird. No, they find their footing, and their voice, their delivery improves, and things get more relaxed, but by default. And how many times people landed on the subject of spirituality, their faith, what gets them through a market. Some of the best conversation throughout that conference, for me personally, came back to people's faith, their spirituality, and good faith belief in other people, and the idea around what we're all trying to be a part of, and we hope we're a part of. That was super powerful. I remember my wife commenting on it at the time. We were listening to you, I think, on the Saturday. I think it was the Saturday. And she remarked, like, so many of these guys are just talking about faith and spirituality as a part of this journey. My wife is a very spiritual person. And that was one of the first things she noticed. It was remarkable.
Yeah, it definitely had a lot of that atmosphere. It definitely had a lot of that atmosphere, which I really liked that aspect of it, actually. And so I think that's definitely one of the strengths of what's happening here.
We all have something in common when it comes to good faith belief. People find a way to reconcile with the fear, the unknown. There's a base level, and it's often in spirituality. Like, data is good too. Data is great, but there's also this leap of faith that everyone has to take in some way. Some people don't want to admit it because it's something you have to wrestle with every day. Am I doing the right thing? Everything is risk. Everything. Getting out of bed is a risk. But there is a base level of good faith belief, and it really came across in that conference. It was so cool. So cool. I think that's what outsiders are looking for, a sense of belonging, like camaraderie and kinship. The conference had that. It has that.
Yeah, I think it did too. I think definitely the community, we fostered that incredibly, and I think we need to continue with that kind of energy as well. We need to bring that energy into the world, because there's an optimism there as well. There's a faith and an optimism for a better world. It's not a surrendering to well, surrender's not the right word. It's not a like giving up. People just give up. I've got a friend who used to be in crypto. He's like, oh, then I realized the big corporations are never going to let us do this. So I just started investing in shares. And I was like, I guess I don't blame him. Why just have a simple life, just invest in the shares and buy Bitcoin and whatever. I was a bit disappointed, a little disappointed, but that's just how people are. They're just, that the world it's like numbed people to how it actually is, and we're so complacent to all the wrongs of the world, and for me it's just not good enough. I can't live in a world that's like that and be satisfied or truly happy when there's suffering in the world. It doesn't make any sense to me that I get to be in Australia and then there's all these people in Australia who think that they have a right to be born here, but they have absolutely no right. They were born here by the grace of God, by the grace of the universe, like sheer blind luck that you got spoofed out of your dad's dick in this country. Sheer blind luck that you weren't born in a place like Africa. And people talk about it like it's a right. It makes me fucking sick to my stomach. Absolutely fucking sick. all these immigrants and me, 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 me. You have no right to be in this country, none whatsoever. There is zero gratitude. It makes me sick.
Yeah, we put a lot of constraints on things to suit ourselves, individually and collectively. It's just, it's the human way. It's a miracle. It's a miracle to be alive. Some people don't make it 5 minutes, you know. I'm grateful for every birthday.
Exactly.
And another thing, you know, I've said this before, but just the name of the chain alone, like in tandem with all this base level good faith belief, like the chain is literally called PulseChain. It's the most human sounding name for a network in crypto. Like everything else is so data driven and gains driven. Every other chain, it just has their names don't even compare. PulseChain. It's the most human sounding chain of the lot. It's excellent. It's a winning name because it's so honest. It's alive. A pulse is alive. A pulse is life.
The pulse that changed the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very, I think we're all very excited to be here, you know, but we're all journeying together.
Yeah, and it's very interesting what you were saying about maths and stuff like that. Like personally, I can see the difference. I can see the connection, like the difference, because it's important to define the difference between, you know, mathematics and science. And, you know, like for example, when you go to school and you know, as young people sort of starting their life, their education, you know, whatever you think about public schooling, you know, that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that, you know, whether they break it down into basic subjects, right, which is, you know, creating boundaries across these subjects, being maths, science, religion, sports, IT, you know, whatever they are. But as you get older and you make those connections in your own right, you realize that, you know, there is no science without mathematics, right? There is no sort of religion without science. There is no sports without science and maths and equations and analytics and all that kind of stuff. And it all connects. You know, when you mentioned about data, Osprey, it made me think, like, you're right, because computers are like data and they're like almost got limitations. But I also find it interesting that, you know, you've got X amount of trillion cells in the human body that's all communicating with each other in different subsections and little ecosystems that all communicate with your brain and your heart and your liver and your kidneys and keeps you alive. And that is like almost like a computer, like a supercomputer that's happening. Like your brain is like a supercomputer, and you're almost like there's like a spirit self. And I love that you guys touched on that, because I've noticed that. I think the part of me is a part of me. I've probably never said this, but as much as I love the data and the maths and the IT side of it and everything like that and the computer science, I'm a very spiritual person, like in like IRL, like very spiritual. But I just don't talk about it, because I've got to a point in my life where I don't really talk about it, because you can only meet people where they've met themselves. And what I like about with Stephen, for example, is like I've watched a lot of his streams and stuff, and a lot of the stuff that he talks about is spirit and spirituality. And I see the connections. I can see the connections in myself and him and other people that I follow. And there's a pattern. There's always a pattern that spirituality and evolution, whether you're an atheist or you believe in God, whatever your faith is, you know, whatever your sort of, you know, whatever you believe, they can all be connected. Like they can all be connected in some ways. They've all got fundamental laws that kind of govern, You know, I heard one guy say one time, which I thought was really interesting, was that like there's almost like a single formula or single algorithmic formula that governs the entire fiber of the universe. And it's like this idea that there's like one thing that can travel through all things. You know, sometimes scientists say that's cell, right? Like that's the cellular level, like the molecular level that's in all things on this planet, and even the fiber of the universe. And like what I'm saying is, you can connect them to markets because markets are, you know, the fact that we talked earlier about computational fluid dynamics. I mean, think about what that actually means. It's talking about computational, which is computers, fluid meaning like it can flow like forward and back, and then dynamics, which is the relationship that has with other things within it. So it's like when you start really deep diving all this kind of these complex things. And of course, it takes time, and we've got our lives, and we've got our bills to pay, and we've got to get, you know, we've got to get ourselves up in the morning and have a good attitude and go to work and get our money and whatever. We've got to deal with our kids and our problems and all that sort of stuff. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that, you know, that those things don't exist. But if you make the time to educate yourself and learn about new things, it opens up your mind. And when you open up your mind, new things happen because you're making space for new things to come into your universe and to come into your life. And I believe this is one thing that I've said to Stephen in private. You know, I found Richard Hart off the back of my own spiritual journey. It was no coincidence that I found this chain. And it's no coincidence that I've become obsessed with the chain and with pDAI and with these things, because it's all one and the same. And the idea that there is a journey, I think we do lose sight of that. You know, of course you make decisions. Of course you know, if you subscribe to the idea that you've got free will, like I believe that I do have free will. But I also believe that I have the opportunity to make my future, right? So science plays a role too. It's like cause and effect. You know, this idea of people being victim mindsets and being like, I'm the victim of the, you know, Stephen, you mentioned it with your friend, and he was like, well, I'm not going to buy crypto because, you know, I'm going to get, you know, they're never going to let it happen. You know, this idea of like being the effect of the market and being the effect of other people. And one of the laws of science is you're either the cause of something or you're the effect of something else. So if you choose to be cause in your own life and you say, no, I refuse that. I deny that. I deny that belief system that I can't change my life. I deny that system that it's all going to doom, and it's all pre-laid out for us, and we've got no choice. Also, you know, the choice of optimism over pessimism, like it is a choice. You know, I had a guy say once, he runs Diary of the CEO, Stephen Bartlett. He said, you know, happiness is a choice, and he argued with his tutor when they said that to him in school. You know, happiness is a choice, Stephen. They sort of said to him, and he's like, no, I don't want to do it, and he processed it, and it come back to the idea that it is a choice, and you have the ability to choose, and it's only when you choose that you can change the situation. So there's also an argument that when people say, you know, when you are the effect of something and you are choosing to not participate, that is still a choice. So if you choose to not look at life through the lens of things will get better, you're still choosing doom. You're still choosing to not act. You're choosing not to speak, not to have a voice, not to try and be the change, not to push back on the haters, not to defend Richard Hart, not to, you know, you do have power within you, and we all do, and you have to use it. You have to act on that. And blaming other people for your problems is just the fastest way to failure. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. You know, there are people today that are calling Richard Hart a scammer that are going to scam themselves out of the 10,000x, but they will never update their worldview in noticing, oh, I was the reason why I missed out. Like it wasn't him, it was me. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's a bitter pill to swallow when you're on the wrong side of that trade. And that's why there's nothing wrong with pushing back on the haters now and saying to them, no, look, you're actually wrong. You're actually wrong. Like, you know, either we're all wrong or you're wrong. Like, that's it. There's no in between. There's kind of like everybody who believes in Richard Hart is wrong, or all the people that don't believe in him are wrong. Like, if you really want to simplify it, because a lot of the time you communicate with people who have looked at life from a binary way of thinking, and the only way you can communicate it is that way. So that's why you get this pushback, you know. And yeah, it's just it. Or what I really wanted to say was just, I love that you guys have connected spirituality to, you know, the metaphysical and the spirituality and the faith and all that kind of stuff to the science and the math and the binary, because, you know, everybody knows that computers were originally programmed in ones and zeros, but those ones and zeros also make up topics like computational fluid dynamics. You know, they also make up the metaphysical. And there's professors out there that are, and people that are studying the space that are saying that the thing that they've realized is a lot of people have found God, for example, when they've studied science, which nobody would have agreed with, not, you know, 20 years ago. You know, people were always taught, like I was always taught, separate the spirituality from the science. But then as you get older and you realize how the world works, you realize that the connectivity and even the community in pDAI and the community in like what we're building and what we have, like that connection that you have, that's the spirituality for me. Like the humanity, the connection, the meeting, and, you know, the rubbing shoulders with people. You know, I watch people like RG3. I talk about RG3 and SJ quite a lot. I spoke to SJ 2 or 3 days ago when this promotion happened with the Joe Rogan thing, and, you know, this potential, this company that I'm sort of talking to, that, you know, I've got a meeting with them later today. It was originally scheduled for yesterday, but it's happening today. And it's not about the fact of whether they can, you know, the binary thinking is, can he get on Joe Rogan? If not, it's crap, right? But the spiritual side of it and the abundance mindset over poverty says, no, let's just connect with these people, because you never know where it's going to go. Because if I approached, for example, if I approached my life of always thinking either it's this or it's that, as much as that is helpful when you're trying to make important decisions, and you do have to look at probabilistic, you know, the probabilistic thinking is the thing that matters. I would never get anything done if it was just binary thinking. I'd never get anything done. Like it works for first principles, but it cannot work for the complexity of life, because life is very complex and it is fluid, and you do have to keep updating your worldview and keep up with it and all that stuff. So that's why, for example, meeting with these people, this D-Logos company, who, you know, we rallied behind that vote, and we got that poll over 1,000. You know, we got up to like 1,100 or 1,200 or something. And it's not about whether he can get us on Rogan. It's the fact that we can rally behind something and work together and put Richard Hart's name on the map and spread it and make it go viral and work for him, work for our bags. And you just don't know. Like sometimes people, you know, if oh well, it's not, they're not directly connected to Joe Rogan's podcast, so therefore they're never going to get on Joe Rogan's podcast, was true, you wouldn't see TikTok stars and social media stars getting cast in movies and music gigs and all that kind of stuff, and crossing across industries, and crazy things happening because that binary thinking is no longer appropriate. You know, all I'm saying is, like, people need to open their eyes to the idea that there could be an opportunity, and you just don't know. It only takes one person who's connected, who's the brother-in-law to one of the JRE teams, who's come across crypto and seen this thing called D-Logos, or somebody mentioned it, and then they've said, who's Richard Hart, looked into him, watched a few of his YouTube videos, bang, mentioned the conversation to JRE's team, say it to Rogan, and then he puts it down on a piece of paper and says, oh, I'll just make a note of him. Obviously, crypto's not a hot topic. Maybe we'll look at it later in the future. That's all it takes, because that is planting a seed and birthing a potential opportunity that could come to pass in 2 to 3 years. And you hit Joe Rogan. I mean, they swayed the whole US vote with the Joe Rogan podcast. Make no mistake on that. So the idea of, like, how are we going to jump? How are we going to go from where we are right now to landing a Joe Rogan podcast is the wrong question to be asking. It's how can we expand ourselves as a community, and create these possibilities of opportunities. And what I was saying about RG3 and SJ is, those are two examples of people that have seen what happened. Like, they were here, you know, day one hexagons that experienced the 10,000x. RG3 has said, I retired off this thing. This thing is real, right? These two people, and there's they're not the only two people. They're the only two people that I've followed for a long period of time. So there's many people involved. But they're working every day for free, volunteering, packaging and packing all day. I don't know if you guys have anybody here's ever done a packing job, but it's one of the hardest jobs you can do because it is so monotonous and it is so repetitive and so like it's so boring. I'll be real with you, it's so boring. But because they're friends and stuff like that, they can obviously, it takes the edge off it. But the fact is, those people are working for free for our bags, for Richard Hart, for our ecosystem, day in, day out, day in, day out. That is coming from a place of abundance. They're not thinking about. Of course, you could say, well, it's all right for RG3. He's retired from it. It's like, no, you're missing the point. If you've got your bills paid for and everything's good, we don't know his financial situations. Nobody does. But the point is, even if he was retired, which he said he has, and he's got this time, he's still choosing to use the available time that he's got to promote and work for your bags. And that is the argument that I say to these haters, like the people that are just counting out, and they're coming from this poverty mindset. And yeah, just to circle back and to finalize what I was trying to say, my point is, it was only through spirituality that I found abundance, right? It was only through that I realized, this can't be it. This can't be it. It can't just be what I see, the limitations that I see in front of me in my everyday life. There's got to be more. That question of what is it? What is more? We're trying to understand the universe. We're trying to understand the world around us. And I think it's one and the same. It's just willing to put on your hat of being a student and pay attention and learn and ask questions and be open to new experiences and open to learning new things. So yeah, I always come from an abundance mindset. I try to, and try to see the view of the world that way, because it's the same way it led me to Richard Hart. It's the reason that I'm even in pDAI.
Yeah, man, there's definitely something to be said on that. It's of all the communities in crypto, this community seems to have attracted more of that type of minded person. And that's, I mean, I was talking about those things actually from the start of my channel. And even when you were saying, when you do something here and then you just never know. So that's from, I'll be preaching to the choir here, I'm sure, but that's even from like a physical level. So the reality is, the light is waves and particles. And for me, it's so clear, like particularly in my meditation center, I shouldn't say mine because it's not mine, it's our meditation center. But with this meditation center, I believe that this meditation is very much the source of truth. So if it's the source of truth, then anything that happens around it prospers. And I see it like day and night, man. Like it's I always knew it, but it was kind of like a theory in my mind because I'd had signs through life like, oh, when I'm being positive, good things happen, or when I'm being negative, bad things happen. But it was kind of just like, oh, it wasn't as clear. Now it's like crystal clear. It's like the minute my mind, my being switches into negativity, I might have a thought like, oh, gee, I hope this student doesn't come today. I'll fucking get a message. I'll get a message like in 5 minutes later, like, oh, I'm not able to come today. Without exception, this happens. But if my mind is like, I can't wait for people to come, then the phone starts ringing and I'm getting people calling for free introductions. It's like it's like a light switch that goes on and off. And it's like, it's waves. It's waves. You're putting the energy out there and the energy is responding back to you. And then it comes to you, and we think we can only see it with our eyes, nose, mouth, and ears, but it's the waves, man. It's yeah, like you said, it's two sides of the same coin. Actually, science and math, it's just two sides of the same coin. So at the core of this chain, we all have that, and we're all searching for that, and we've all been led to this core center that is Richard Hart, who has that heart, that being, and is fulfilling those things in the world that nobody else was doing. Because we're all searching for it. Like, even in the quote unquote spiritual community, you hear things like, oh, the quantum finance system, and people talk about these things, but there was nowhere that it was actually being achieved. There is no quantum financial system. People have tried different things and whatever. There hasn't been an alternative financial system. There is none. We're all still stuck in the centralized, extractive, linear financial system. And I truly believe that something here is happening that is leading to the new financial system that we've all been hoping for, we've all been wishing for, we've all been dying for it, we've all been so desperate for it, because they're strangling us to death. They're strangling us to death. They're poisoning the world, and their grip on the world it's getting tighter. It's getting tighter, but because even logically, again, it's connecting math and what people consider spirituality. I don't see the two as any different. I call myself a spiritual rationalist. When you're grateful, good things happen. Why? Why does it happen on a higher level of probability? That's fucking math. That's just math. And so in the same sense, really, fundamentally, what is done from the self leads to suffering. What is done from true love blossoms. It's a mathematical fact. So as long as we keep acting from that place and moving from that place and helping each other and being a good spirit to each other, it's just going to grow. We don't know how long it's going to take. I have no expectations of the time, but for me, it's so inevitable. It can't be anywhere else, because there is nowhere else for it to be. There is literally nowhere else for it to be. There is no other blockchain that has these properties, these types of communities. It just doesn't exist out there. This is the best chance that there is.
I've just stopped the recording exactly when you finish that statement, because to me, it's the perfect way to end this VC. I could not agree with you more. Brilliantly said, Stephen. We've gone 3.5 hours. So what I might do is, if it's cool by everybody, we'll wind it up here, and I'll send you the MP3 of the full recording of this VC, Steve, for your channel and records. If you want to, you do your own uploads and things as well, I think. So
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Osprey. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I go through that, and
we covered some serious ground today. It was very good, very positive.
I'm looking forward to listening to the start.
I was a bit slow to start, but we got there. I will, I'll upload that now. If everyone's cool, I'll finish the VC here and get that done. Is that okay? Cool. Yeah, we'll catch you next week. Stephen and Doc, we'll be in touch anyway in the interim. But yeah, thanks ever so much to everybody who joined in and listened and took part. Excellent. Take care, everyone.